sleep at night. Like, if he wants to go and tear it down and pay a fine and appeal to city council, go for it.
No.
Like, that's,
This one didn't seem to be all that great to me. I mean,
Yeah, I'm,
the wording's there. And,
since I've been back, Disco Ball, you covered that up.
You're going to hypnotize people
That's
with
right.
the sweater.
Are they going like this?
they're dabbing.
They're-
They're dabbing.
Stabbing deer?
Dabbing Santa.
Carl, what is the Wi-Fi? Is it city guest or city?
It's, city guest.
It should be city guest,
I don't think it requires a password.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, not.
Yeah, it
So,
doesn't have, nothing has to
Alright,
pass
You just need to log into,
unanimously.
like, try to get onto a website
I'm
first.
sorry, what?
Nothing has to pass unanimously.
Correct.
Yeah, no, if you guys wanna
No,
put
I
things
want it,
out
I
there,
want it to be really close,
just,
then.
you know, take a vote and we'll be done with it.
I'm
There's
down
no
with
need
that.
to discuss or
Rod is
have,
gonna come, okay.
I mean,
I told Jeff earlier also that like we need to keep our, we've seen all three of these before.
Yeah.
I feel like we should make sure we keep the presentations to 10 minutes and then,
Thank you for coaching me on this,
you
I
know,
appreciate it now, I really
have
do,
our
I'm not
discussion
kidding.
as we need it, but not let us get drawn into a back and forth with the applicants, which
Yep.
sometimes happens.
I'm gonna try to control that
Thank you.
I failed last month.
as well as I can,
I
cause you
really,
probably
really
wanted
failed.
to enter into a discussion with them, that's the
Well,
hard part
no,
about
he
sharing.
just, I couldn't cut him off, and he was being very emotional. I just couldn't cut him off.
The owner,
And it's
Yeah.
his point of view, whereas I empathize with it, it's not, it doesn't align with our purview.
right. He can apply to other people that have more discretion,
That's right.
right? That are elected,
That's
that are in the business of sucking up
That's right.
and getting elected. Let me see if I'm on the Wi-Fi. Nope, it does not want me to be on there. It's, messed up.
So is Brett gonna join remotely or no?
No, he's not.
I had a question about the
Yes, I was gonna start a discussion, so thank you, Roger.
whitewash
On,
300 Court Square.
Oh, I didn't look at it.
I
didn't
just,
see any red ones.
So I went by it
Wasn't
today,
red, it was white.
and I wasn't sure what I was looking at.
They said that there's a red wash on the building. I didn't see it anywhere.
well, then that
So
means
I
it's
saw
probably
the,
good.
the line whitewash.
Which looks
on
bad,
The
in my
west
opinion.
side, and it seems like there's, on the east side, I'm sorry, and it seems like there's two versions. There was one that was
Yeah.
really milky that looked not right to me, and the other one looked more like whitewash.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And I wasn't sure what I was supposed to be looking at or what they are.
Hopefully they'll
This
tell us.
wouldn't be.
They're on the east side?
Right?
Yeah.
Like this side.
It's gonna take me all of
Is that
5
just-
minutes.
I was gonna say, you should go. It's actually 5:02, that clock is 6 minutes early.
Like, I
So go up
really
there
had
and
walked
take a
all
picture
the
with
way
your,
around.
That Jeff is gonna say.
take a picture with your phone so I can see it.
Yeah,
I literally walked right by it, but didn't
But
look at it.
again, I do not have time to look at back at, it's just been a crazy,
That's
it's been a crazy week.
concerned if the entire building is gonna be
That,
treated that way, it better be right.
Well, I mean, I'm on the mind of just, you know what, repair the damaged brick that's like really badly lost and leave the thing like it is.
I don't think the brick is,
The red brick's fine.
yeah.
I mean,
There's
parts-
some that
There's a
are
lot of
gone.
repair that needs.
Sure,
Yeah.
repair it, let it be honest.
But, yeah, wouldn't it be better, I mean, you're the conservationist, be better if it were
I know
allowed
you-
to breathe?
Yeah, which a lime wash technically would, but the sample they put up just does not look good.
But Roger, you're a resident historian now.
I am, I can wear many hats.
That's
I'm
right.
a business owner, I could be a resident, I could be whatever. Historian's probably my least qualified.
It's okay.
No, I do have a degree in architectural history.
Okay, well, me
So
too, that's
Carl
pretty
has,
much it.
Carl has gone up to look at 300.
Is he
and-
running up there?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's 5:02, that clock
Yeah, yeah.
is.
I mean, I
So-
did look at the paint samples, which I'd be interested to know which they're proposing.
So
or-
I'll wait
In the
to,
renderings, it's pretty clear which paint samples they're.
and I'll wait to, I mean, if anybody wants to talk about anything, but I figured I'd wait to talk about 507 Ridge until he gets back and maybe Ron shows up or not. I was really thinking that clock was accurate.
Yeah, we could probably take it down and make it accurate though. I think it's just battery powered.
Patrick?
Yes.
Could you fix that clock? It-
don't know if that clock is
I think James is gonna fix it. He might have to move Candace.
We gonna break it.
He's gonna break it. Here's Ron. It bothers us that it's only like 6 minutes off. It's not like 5 minutes early or 10 minutes or,
Just be 5 hours off for the.
it's gonna mess with me the whole meeting, so.
What's the accurate rate?
505.
And where's Jeff, by the way?
I don't know.
Molly, where's Jeff?
Are you Ron?
I am.
Ron? Roger
He didn't say
Burrow?
anything to you, Remy? that
Roger
he's-
Burrow.
Nice to meet you.
Good to meet you.
He's
Well
our
done.
favorite absent-minded
It's
professor,
5:06.
but he's usually on time, so.
Speaking of on time.
Thank you.
This is
Patrick just wanted to eat his dinner.
Well, she said fin, Sherry in her notes said fin for yourself, so I'm fending.
Carlson, this.
Did I?
about
Well,
voltage.
no, that was
There's
James.
like no
That-
other.
But
well, there
we're
was a-
planning to go out
that's-
after.
there was
I
an email from
understand.
Yeah, okay.
somebody
I'm hungry now.
Yeah, I was hungry like an hour ago.
It said
I
that the line
agree.
was like a
Well, I didn't
Comcast
have
line.
lunch.
And,
I don't
and I,
know.
and I actually think you're wise because I don't think any
It wasn't
of
from Carl, it was
these. are gonna
one of
show.
those like no reply to the email.
Sorry.
Please don't say that.
Based on my only experience so far last month.
I have gotten some.
Is it a- this one?
I got the
Yeah,
one.
10:30.
Oh, I missed a good one.
Yeah, I
There's
was,
gonna be a
There
whole
were
lot of
several
people going
Hawaii.
for dinner after that.
I was in Egypt.
Oh, wow.
There have
I
been
was
some
in
people
Hawaii.
who
Wow,
have
we
not
were
had,
far-flung.
Yeah, no kidding.
Were you there for work, Ron, or for?
Like when you
Vacation
sent
at
out
work,
this
I was
email
covering the
to
climate
bar
change
at
conference.
charlottesville.gov.
And
I did not get it
also,
until Jeff did
we went 2 weeks, 2.5
This
weeks
thing
early
that said
and
James had some emails.
toured everywhere. It was great fun. It was.
There
There's
must be
mine- I
like
had
two,
several that
there must
bounced
be
back
like
at me.
2 bar
So how long were you in Hawaii?
could be.
things, or maybe my
About 2
email's not.
weeks.
But I have gotten some things.
Which islands?
4 of them.
Oh,
Which is a
wow.
lot of ground to cover.
It is.
I had not been there in 60 years.
Okay.
But I guess.
And
this structure may have been
Do you know
built
if
by
there's a red wash
1844.
sample on the building?
We-
Because they referred to
we've
that,
got,
I looked at the building today and I didn't see any sample that's a red wash.
You don't know, Jeff, or?
I don't know,
Now
I
they're
didn't see one.
blown away.
But I think that we may have to sort of incrementalize some things here to get it through, I think. There are so there's little things that we can peel away,
Okay,
get as much of
Yes,
them.
yes. Welcome.
just say what can we support tonight?
We live on Second Street.
Yeah.
Can we do
Second
that, a
Second
partial
Street.
COA?
No,
We were supposed to.
it would be, you know,
Yes.
but,
Annotate the approval.
unless you guys
We
want
are
to
in the
condition the
historic
heck out
district.
of things, I mean, I'm,
So Egypt's on my bucket list, I've got, very good times there. So teachers. Decided to do something.
So,
Oh, that would
Jeff,
definitely
sorry.
be different.
That's okay, I'm listening.
Just,
Fourth year.
So there's-
it's the first time I'm hearing about those.
Okay.
Teaching an
Would you
international
like
school
us
outside of Cairo,
Come.
American school.
Among many of the delights of Egypt, the one that I found
Brooke Candace Smith is.
completely fascinating and frightening is a city of 25 million people, which is Cairo,
Not Third,
has
Third
not a
Street
single
is.
stoplight.
I mean, 300 Portsmouth.
Yeah, there is,
I have both of them printed out, and I will definitely read them.
They're just, it's complete chaos.
Oh, I did not get this, perfect.
And then,
but they're all in, they go to the markets.
on, yes, on 500, I think that we're gonna have,
Anything but sort of in their little bubble, they're really experiencing what life is like in Cairo.
some things where we have, like, for example, like some side, still.
Among other things,
Those encroaching the right.
our guys basically said, do not, under any circumstances, try to cross the street by yourself.
So,
You don't know how to do it.
design on the awning, the design on the east.
On the flip side, you know, seeing the
I'll have to.
ancient sites and so forth, it's
We
something,
have to take, when we get to.
you know, when I was a
Take
kid,
break, we're gonna write down what the.
when they were moving Abu Simbel, it was in my weekly
Somebody
reader,
can keep
which
a
is
list of things
the
that were
paper you
not
got in
right.
elementary school. I made a big deal out of it, so I got to go see Abu Simbel.
I thought we weren't supposed to do that. I'm not scolding you. I'm,
Omitting, we can omit.
Right, we can say we approve it except for these things.
Right, and then they omit, and they come back to the.
so it's a separate COA. They don't come back and amend. Okay, that's what Lisa doesn't want us to do. Okay.
And so that we can, you know, we're omitting.
Did they give you
The whitewash.
what is this website?
Color palette, we can do that like we did.
Yeah, it's pretty rough.
Say, we wanna see that, but I think that the,
You think east, sorry.
I don't have any problem with it.
Yeah, they had that prior to the last meeting.
There's no issue with it.
And that's really the south, isn't it?
Yes, so the renderings, but I don't think it's the same requirement, I'm not gonna recommend removing those windows. I'm not, I said, I'm not convinced. I don't, but I'm not convinced what would be. Like, normally it'd be, like I said, they want to store it, one, two, in, so if they are, then you'd wanna, you would just infill the opening so that it's obvious that, so like, if, you may say, we don't allow you to remove it. Question is, you know, how you treat the right colors, to be more important. So,
Like, and it's
the
really
front doors, no problem with that. There's, everything in the back, the gift shop doors, all that, kind of problem. But the
Yeah, removing the
interesting
second and
choice-
third story.
Yeah, and so that's what I kind of broke it down there. But I think, you know, I'm encouraging them, you know, there's a lot to get done. I mean, you can't build anything in the right of way, not just stuff, so it really doesn't matter.
sure what I was looking at as far as their, color samples, those whitewash samples. Well, it seems like there's two different types on the east side.
I think it's gonna be one or the other. I think what it is ultimately is still being
Okay.
kind of attempted.
So that's not something we need to decide on, or
I think-
does that hinge on the approval, or?
I think it would be, like, if you, I think they're gonna have to do repairs.
Oh,
So
yeah.
many bricks. They're gonna have to put something.
Oh my gosh.
I don't agree. I don't agree.
Huh?
I disagree with that statement.
No, I just think the bricks have been,
Yes, there are some bricks that are gone.
there's the bricks that are gone, and the rest of the brick face has been, you know,
It's been sandblasted, but
And we know the building was painted, so that's, well, okay, that's where, so fixing all those bricks, it might be ideal to have a wash. And unless we know that one of them was, so it would be sort of decision of, do you want,
We do know that there was a wash.
It was painted.
we know, painted.
Oh, yeah.
And then there's.
I don't know about
No,
wash.
it was something.
A lot of stuff in that building, but it,
The mortar joints are still covered in paint, I just maybe picked at them a little bit.
so it would be, you know, I don't know, just,
Okay.
once they fix all those bricks, is it going to be, do you all okay, some sort of coating on there that's appropriate for masonry, you know, color to be determined? That's sort of, and then, yes, no. Or, you know, if it's, so that way you can sort of okay with them, get a coat on, because I think that does affect how you fix the brick. I suspect you all not going, the windows, said, probably be something that, as I said, if it seems that you all are not going of okaying, fine. If the,
Do I have to make that noise?
I will.
When somebody makes a motion, do we have to
I've had
do that
kind of-
little kaput
Yeah, I've had a day
noise?
that I've earned some onomatopoeias tonight.
Victor Borga up here.
What's that?
Right.
Oh, sorry.
That's like an old reference for a young guy. I'm pretty proud of you. Guy in the disco ball sweat t-shirt rather, sweater, whatever I'm trying to say is going out.
But what I'm saying, all for Jim, primarily is, once we get to where 300, I have that level of launch, that sort of laundry list there. Anything we want to omit, anything we want to versus conditions, probably makes sense to just take a short recess and make sure we do that. And then, however you should.
And this applicant and nobody's gonna be here for those?
They would.
Oh, I thought you said nobody's
I've
coming.
been talking to them a lot.
Okay, I was gonna say, because you said Third Street wasn't here, and I'm like, here.
Carl, did you find a red rock?
Yes, and actually it was funny, I ran into the architect out there looking for the red wash.
I run into guys as big
You-
as Carl, that's my last concussion.
He was,
Oh.
it's, you can't really see it, you can only tell because the
Okay.
mortar is also red, so I'm gonna send you some
So
pictures.
there is a red wash as well.
There is, and it's almost invisible.
All right, I couldn't find it.
So
Well, that might
it
be
did a good
successful
job.
then.
Yes.
I was gonna say, that might.
That might win.
Is
So
it directly next to the whitewash sample?
there is one, yes, and they've kind of, it looks like they went all over the place with it, to be honest. There's a couple spots. So I don't know what's going on. There's a really messy looking section right to the right of the whitewash.
That's the one I
I don't know
guessed was
what
the
the heck
red
that is, but over to the left, there's another spot where you don't see all that crud.
Okay.
So this is, it's in the ether right now on your way.
And they're
That's
not-
way to you.
They're not lining the mortar, they're just washing, so everything is consistent with all.
Yeah, I think, but we'll find out. We can discuss that.
An aspiration for me something. I don't think that it's gotten to the micro details of this issue. So that's what I'm saying, if there's some latitude in what is available, we will discuss it. Then the things like the lighting and sidewalk encroachment issue, what you mentioned, lighting, I don't know, I think there's a lot of lighting going on, right? Lighting's an issue, so.
adjourn or something to discuss this, and if we're allowed to do
You know,
that.
sometimes when you.
If it's
you know,
public discussion.
More like with group writing, you would wanna do a, is it easier to sit down and say, here, say this, instead of in the microphone, wordsmithing. I don't know, doesn't matter to me, it's more just, what's the best way to write it?
Yeah.
We sent Thomas Jefferson and the other guy in the corner to say, write up something for us all to sign. Sort of that deal. But, that's all I have.
Okay,
And
maybe one of our members can be making
Yeah,
that
right,
list and
right.
checking it twice.
Because
Right.
it'll
Right,
be,
gentlemen, help me
it'll
out.
be something, staff reports, you know, so make notes all of that, it will be, we have to formally record the motion, and it's, you know, it's kind of come from group speak. We did discuss that something. The 116 West Jefferson, that was the Fourth Street construction we approved for the year, that nothing's changed whatsoever, we're just, actually changing some stuff that we want back. There is a door, back of the historic house and the basement of the historic house, and there's, I just didn't think there was anything too problematic with that one. It's,
Does anybody have any objection to the two items on the consent agenda? I wanted to ask that in advance.
No?
Like, Mr. Disco Ball over here just did it.
he's, yeah, he's recused.
One of the
Celebration.
applicants.
I know, I'm saying you're celebrating because you won't have to,
It's at the
You dance.
discretion of the
No
BAR.
dancing, no dancing. Yeah, I guess, I mean, we have a forum.
so you should abstain from
Yeah.
that.
So we have a forum to have, I mean, you know, how we have to go on this vote. And, I mean, I think Frank sent me pictures of where it is, in the middle of Iowa.
It's about to snow, or it already has, and it's gonna snow more.
It was like, okay, it looked like a farm.
No, you really, will Molly call the roll on voting, or do you want to do
Molly's
that?
here to just, observe and learn.
Okay. Did she make it to last meeting, or is this her
She
first
watched.
one? Okay, okay, so this is, yeah, she, okay.
Did she introduce herself?
Yes.
Well, yeah, I
We
think
didn't-
Roger met her, and I met her really quickly when I came in, so, yeah.
Hi, Molly.
Hi, Molly.
Don't get involved in this, don't get involved in this, don't.
Our assistant historic preservation and design plan. We're not gonna say the new Robert, we're tired of that. She, not Robert.
He started his new job yesterday. He says, he flew to New York. He's gonna work for 4 days, then he's taking the train home, packing stuff, going to Charlotte House for Christmas, and then taking the train back next week.
We're all gonna be like, we remember him when he's like president of the architectural world.
He's gonna do,
Gonna do great.
and,
I have a question. Did anybody happen to walk by Park Plaza and look at the power lines?
So I didn't get any of the email.
Okay.
You didn't?
It's electric, it
Do you
looked
have a
like. It
second?
didn't look like it
How do
was
you get
low
any of the
voltage.
technical stuff to the BAR?
I know that.
I got an email from Carl today and was confused as to what it was about.
It was Roxanne's email through the, you didn't get that?
I didn't get that.
You didn't get Roxanne? Then you're not getting them through the no replies Civic Plus thing.
So I just sent a test email
It's still there.
through the online portal.
It is electric.
Oh,
If
I
it's
see,
the
it's
same one
testing.
that's still on
Yeah,
Google
I
Street
didn't
View,
look at that.
it's electric and it's
Okay,
not
if you're
cable.
on there, I'll send you,
So we'll have to check.
I'll send you
Sucks.
Roxanne White one.
We'll have to check why.
I took a lot of editorial.
Is that
Roger,
Pat-
have you been doing?
Yeah, no,
Is that
I'm not getting that one either.
Jeff, who would we talk to about 2 meters not getting BAR emails, Roger and Tyler not
I mean, I'm
getting?
getting things from Jeff.
I don't know
I'm
what's.
not getting things
But
from Dan.
on the, but you're not getting anything on the
I
BAR?
send it out to PAR, I mean,
Is Patrick, would
you're not
Patrick
telling
help
me
us
you're
with
not
that?
getting it.
Did you check your spam filter?
But sometimes when you guys reply, things don't seem to.
Apparently,
The
you
city
get my
server's a little
reply.
weird.
Right, so if I send it again, if you all reply all, that seems to be a glitch.
Anybody who has Yahoo, it doesn't go through the city server or AOL.
I had a hard time for a month and then it got straightened out, unfortunately, but it's been several months.
The emails from the
I
no
just
reply
forwarded
Civic
to
Plus or
Roger
whatever,
Roxanne.
the online form, when people fill out the online form to send an email to us, there are a couple people who aren't getting those.
I'm sending Roger and Tyler both of the comments on 507.
Okay, so
And then,
we check the website.
My guess is
and I
it's
haven't
their
gotten
own
your email
servers.
that you sent us on 300.
It was big, so it probably got stuck. I should have shrunk the images. Did anybody get the pictures from me?
Yeah,
Okay.
did?
I got that.
Just now?
So the other one we got, so Roxanne, her reply back to us
It's the
was,
same thing,
it was the same thing, yeah.
except the second had pictures.
I was expecting like photographs of the power lines, but yeah, it was 20 megs for a single page
Yeah,
PDF.
it was only 2 pictures at 20
I was a little disappointed.
So actually, let me send the non-huge one to Tyler.
Oh. So we are, the form that downtown mall. So,
Not it.
well, I've been really working with Brett because of the landscape architect aspect of the, PAR rep, but I think it's simple, like, if you're interested, I'd like to just have you guys,
Are we doing it that,
consent to have, Brett represents
oh, Brett is gonna
on
do
the,
it?
yeah.
On the down, which one of these
It's
is?
the work that that's, and I just figure with this, the landscape architect perspective,
What's the NRHP? I didn't know we were gonna talk about these right
the
now.
national
NRHP, downtown mall.
Register of Historic Places.
Oh, update, okay. So you want for Breck to be the downtown mall BAR rep? I'm gonna apply for that.
But you can, I said.
I'm gonna
James
apply.
is-
I'll do everything to obstruct Breck as much as I can. I'll say, no, I wanna be, I don't care, I didn't wanna be the BAR, I just wanna be on it. We need business people on it,
Yes. Yes.
people that,
That would be nice.
like capitalists, maybe, and not policy wonks, excuse all the policy wonks in the room.
So,
People that are impacted
we have not
by what
had an
happens in the mall. I emailed her and she never replied to me, so someone chased her away, and I thought Tyler had not chased her. I think she's,
Brittany's
yeah, Brittany, she didn't reply, and I even emailed her, and she didn't reply to me this time, even though we exchanged about 10 emails back and forth. So, I mean, things can happen. So if anybody knows, we're still looking for, and is there another deadline, or is it just rolling? Like, first one who applies gets the job?
That seat could expire.
That could be cool.
Yeah. It's business owner, or is it something else?
Business in a district or a commercial property, it's another shared.
I just wasn't sure if it was some of those are either or type.
Yeah, it's like either, like Mike had a business.
Mine is an owner of a property, not a business person, I think, or.
I mean, not that, well, I'm always
Mine is
pushing
an
the
owner
architect.
of an agency of property.
There are lots of architects in the downtown mall that we could reach out to, but that's just one more architect on the board.
Yeah.
Bruce Wardell said,
I know, he's, yes, no, you can't.
You've gone through too many.
I mean, there are design professionals who are interested in unique position. You can say, hey, just fill a space with that.
Do that.
So yeah, and I had something else on there for July. January. Just not formalize the captain light policies down there.
hanging lights.
Thank you. It was like, we're hanging cats?
So it's, the cafe spaces wanna put, and I just wrote up some, okay, come on, here's,
So you already have a policy written, you just want us to okay it.
I wanted to.
Perfect.
Oh, yeah, we really, that's gonna be a short discussion, not.
Well, no, that is, it's better than us trying to come up with it.
Yeah.
The thing is though, is we walk along, you know, suddenly something that simple becomes, you know, I come over with you and go, okay, well, these are these on page 8 of, what do I mean by 8? So, but it's, I'll get that out of fall down January. January, we're gonna get, I think, so far, I've got,
It's 5:30.
solar panels, another demolition.
Sherry, we need to get you a gavel.
Yeah, ooh, thank you. I'm gonna make you one.
Okay.
I have a tool that makes wood.
Could I have hot sauce also, along with my gavel?
You know, you might have to, you and Brett can fight. Maybe you could just be the gavel.
I'm kidding, I have some left over from the last time. So I want to call to order our regular monthly meeting, the December meeting of the Charlottesville Board of Architecture Review. First, we want to welcome Molly Murphy, who is our new Assistant Historic Preservation and Design Planner. Molly joins us for the first time in person at our meetings. We look forward to working with her in the future, and, you know, hello and good luck. Please help keep us straight, along with Jeff. We've got a medium-sized agenda tonight. Staff will introduce each item, followed by the applicant's presentation, which we ask for the applicants not to exceed 10 minutes on that initial presentation. The chair, me, will then ask questions from the public, followed by questions from the BAR. After the questions are closed, I'll ask for comments from the public, and that's just straight comments, not questions. And then for each application, members of the public are allowed that 3 minutes for comments. 3 minutes for questions and also 3 minutes for comments. Speakers should identify themselves and provide their address. Comments should be limited to our purview, not general planning or political or your favorite holiday cookie recipe, but just things that are within the BAR's purview, which is mostly enforcement and interpretation of our design guidelines. And that is pretty much limited to only exterior aspects of the projects. Following all of that, and prior to taking action, the applicant can have 3 minutes to rebut before we take a vote. So I'd like to just ask if there are any general matters from the public. Any member of the public could use 3 minutes to just address anything that's not on our agenda. I don't think we have anybody, and anybody online? No, raising their hand? Okay, good. We'll move on to the consent agenda. And there are 2 matters on the consent agenda. There was a certificate of appropriateness application for 116 West Jefferson Street, and also a COA application for 1513, 1515 University Avenue. And those have been placed on our consent agenda for an up and down vote. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll move to approve.
Madam Chair, I'm going to abstain as I'm one of the applicants on behalf of the University of Virginia.
Thank you. Mr. Zemer is going to abstain. Is there a second?
Second.
Does everybody have their mics on, by the way? I wanted to make sure, yeah. And I think there is, if there's any discussion on the motion, should I ask for that now?
And just
Okay.
to be clear, the approval of consent, then the motions that are recommended in staff reports become the motions approval. So,
Perfect.
there you go.
Thank you. So we are also moving to, with the wording in the staff report, to
Correct.
adopt those motions.
Correct.
With this action. And Mr. Warner, are you calling our roll call tonight, or how do you want to handle that?
I'm actually a few seconds behind you on logging in.
I can do it.
Yes, would you please?
Mr. Whitney?
Yes.
And I'll vote yay. Mr. Schwartz?
Yes.
Mr. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr.
Burl, yes.
Burl, thank you. please forgive me. The motion passes unanimously with one abstention. So we're going to move on to the first deferred item. We've got 3 on our agenda. This is a COA application for 507 Ridge Street. The owner applicants are Kimberly and Clayton Lauter. If I've mispronounced that, I apologize. And Jeff, would you be ready with that for staff report?
I will.
Okay.
And, this is a request that came to you all, excuse me, I know my, this is a request that came to you all last month for the demolition of an outbuilding shed, essentially, but what had been a small cottage to the rear of 507 Ridge Street. It is contributing within the ADC district and within the National Register district. I'm here now. I'm going to try to. There we go. And so, just quickly, it's the house and the cottage in the rear. I believe was constructed sometime when the house was probably around 1895. All evidence is it's moved at least once, I think possibly twice, to its current location. Mr. Zimmer and I did go out and look at it and took a bunch of photos, and all that's in the staff report. And Mr. Lauter can certainly address the reasons that he's making the request. Again, we deferred the matter. Couple reasons. One, I was just curious if what we could maybe do if there were individuals interested in the building. I will say I have 2 parties that have expressed interest, both architects, but there's no, if it were relocated, it would be moved outside of a district. There would be no more BAR purview over it, so it wouldn't permanently preserve it, but it would at the very least extend its life possibly. Because I will say in my conversations with the owners, their reasoning is to remove this. I was looking at an option for, even if it went the whole length of appeal in the process through city council and all, would it be easier to try and find another home for this structure? So, but the corresponding side to that is that our guidelines are fairly clear, and about relocation of a historic structure that's contributing. So that's, I'm trying not to say where I stand personally, but I will say is an opportunity to save this versus I think it becomes a contentious issue. We're likely to see the structure lost. So, and I think most of you were here last month, except Sherry, and so I won't.
Mr. Bailey wasn't here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
either.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so, do you have any questions for me about what is in the staff report, or?
Just to cut to the chase a little bit, has anybody come forward saying that they'd like to pay for removal of this, and are they working with the owners to do that?
Yes.
At this point?
I
Okay.
I have 2 parties that have
And maybe the
expressed-
owners are prepared to address that. I just thought that's, okay.
Well, I didn't
Okay.
bring any, but I told Clayton there might be, I really wanted to determine whether or not you all had even I had asked them, I said, if someone were interested, could we come take a look at it? And so let's figure out, but I know that it would not be moved to another district or to an IPP or something like that. So it would essentially be allowing demolition by allowing it to be removed and placed somewhere else. But said the 2 parties that I talked to are interested in using it as a structure on one in the city I know. So, but no point in kind of belaboring that unless you all were interested in that option. And then if you were, then we could go take a look at the.
I guess for us, looking to take a vote tonight, we've got an application to demolish.
Mm-hmm.
Unless somebody, and I would only think it would be the owners, somehow modify that application and give us information about a removal, which is some of the same criteria, but I think we'd have to have information about the removal. I don't know if anybody's really prepared to do that tonight. And, I mean, I'm a little bit, just trying to summarize where we are. I mean, that we have a lot of information from staff and certainly from last month's
Right,
discussion
and I can tell you, the
about a
removal would
demo.
be
Yeah.
not two sites that that it would fall under BAR purview. So it would be, essentially allowing someone else to remove the building, put it somewhere, utilize it, but there would be no assurances that that would result in
So are
preservation.
you going to suggest that as staff, or, I mean, I'm just thinking procedurally, how do I go forward with this? And how do we
I don't know,
all consider it?
I haven't dealt with a situation like this. I can just say is that, before I had people traipsing around Clay's backyard, I was figuring we would see where things stood with you all. In my personal and somewhat professional opinion, it's one of those where you jack it up, put two skids on it, pull it up on a truck, and take it on down the road. That could be easily done. And I've expressed that to both parties that were this to be removed, the goal is quick removal. This is not turning into a construction project in someone's backyard. So, and I don't know, it may not, that
Is
may
it
not.
sturdy enough to be removed? Let me just ask. I mean,
I mean, I would, yeah, I would take a lot off of it. I would take the windows out, and I'd put a lot of framing inside to hold it together, to keep it just from racking. The chimney would have to be taken down, but I think it could be done. The result when it got somewhere else, that would have to be determined. So it's sort of to be expedient on behalf of the owner, out of respect for them. But no, allowing it to be relocated is no guarantee of protection. I know they want to have it removed. I know that the next step, if this were to be denied, is an appeal to council. And in that event, and I have actually, Clay, I'll share with you afterward, but the next step that would be, if council said, no, we agree with BAR, the next step is is where in the code it's written about
Circuit court.
the required sale. No, there's
Oh.
that, so you can, and I think the amount of time for this would be like 2 months. It has to be on the market, and if no one buys it, so there's a sequence of steps in the ordinance.
34.
And then it would be up to him, to him and his family, what they do with it after that, should no one step forward.
And there's no, I didn't see in the staff report information about a removal,
I thought I mentioned that there are
Okay.
interested individuals, and I said, I'm
Okay.
not,
But no,
it's not like on Preston when that house was being moved down the street to another site within the district. It simply would be allowing its removal to someone seeking to use the structure.
I
project.
actually, a long time ago, represented an applicant who wanted to demolish a shed that was believed to have been inhabited, it was dated older than this. It was in Woolen Mills. And that, much like these applicants, they wanted it demolished. My client wanted it demolished, and after we were defeated by the BAR, we came back with another motion to move it elsewhere on the property, a little bit different than what's being proposed here. But that was not, we're here because there's an application that
That's
someone has
correct.
presented, and I'm not hearing from them
Well,
that they've
and
asked
right.
for removal.
Yeah,
Yeah, that might be,
and
yeah.
and you will.
I just kind of wanted to get the lay of the land procedurally,
And I'm offering you
yeah,
what's in the staff report.
with staff, because this is part of the staff report.
Correct. And so, I'm offering you what I can, but to just take it straight out of the, BAR protocols, the recommendation would be, this is the demolition of a building that is contributing, it's historic, we don't have engineers support, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, and I'm expressing that, my concern is that it will likely be, in a denial, it will likely be lost. So, and I don't know how to word that carefully. I wish I had all the time in the world to spend trying to figure this one out. I don't. And so I'm offering the best I can. And wherever, Clayton, Kimberly are with their schedule and time frame. So that's what I can tell you, but you all are within your right to just simply review the staff report, and if it provides, what evidence is in there, and make a decision based on that, that's
Okay.
fine.
Thank you for letting us cover
All right.
that. I just wanted to ask. So is there anything else that, Mr. Warner, that you want to cover in the staff report, or I know that there was a lot of time spent last month on this. Anything else that you'd like to offer, or should I? You're next.
No, I just had a question.
Yeah.
Because you were saying that it was a contributing structure, but I thought that I read, and maybe I'm incorrect, that it actually doesn't have any effect on our designation as an historic district home.
It is all right, so there are two districts involved here. One is the city, the local district, and it is designated contributing. That's why you all are reviewing it. If it's, like that ATM last month was a contributing structure. That's why you reviewed its demolition. One of the criteria in the guidelines is what is its, how is it referred to in the National Register listing? And for the Ridge Street Historic District, it is listed as contributing. It is a contributing structure. It is part of it. However, in conversation with Department of Historic Resources, removing it, in their opinion, would not put the district at risk of being delisted. The house is not individually listed. It's all part of the district. So, but it would be, imagine you took, 90% of the buildings that are historic on Ridge Street and demolish them, DHR would likely say this no longer qualifies for the National Register listing. So it is contributing locally and to the National Register. It is not individually listed. Removing it from this site will not place the National Register designation in jeopardy.
And I had one other, just
You
clarification.
you all can,
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
and you're welcome to step up. You're next up. No, you've got,
It's fine.
Yeah.
But so, the other thing is that we have not been able to determine that anyone actually lived in the structure. And in fact, we have reason to believe that maybe it was a kitchen that wasn't even ever someone, in fact,
yeah.
it's so small, it's
Yeah.
10 by 10. Nobody lived in there.
well, people lived in 10 by 10s, but.
Well, I know.
But let's get, well,
anyway.
is staff
We have no-
report
we have no
over,
feedback.
or, I mean, staff can talk at any time, of course, but if I can move on to the applicant's
that's what I said.
presentation?
You all
Yeah.
are, I'm done with, unless you had questions for me.
If you want to come on up, and you've got 10 minutes, you don't have to use all of it, but whatever you think is pertinent at this point is really helpful.
Thank you.
If you could just tell us, not that we don't know who you are, but.
Sure, my name is
Yeah,
Clayton
thank you.
Lauder. We live at, my wife and I both live at 507 Ridge Street with our 3 children. The intention here is not to cause a fuss, but to remove this building to put in an ADU for her failing health, aged father. That simple. The value proposition is the existence of this structure for this structure's sake. I mean, I'm sorry to say, but it's going to go away, whether it's tomorrow, whether it's next week, whether it's in 3 years due to lack of upkeep. I'm sorry. We are not selling tickets. We're not roping this off. We're not inviting the public to come view it. More than happy to document its construction and its removal. I mean, the notion that it should be lifted, put on a flatbed, and carted off to a non-historic region, I mean, no. That's crazy. If you had another location in the district that you'd like to move it, we would consider that. But what you're saying is I'm giving a building away for free to somebody who's
No,
gonna
I
maintain it
just
with no
offering that.
oversight of this
Yeah.
body or anyone else.
Yeah.
That's nuts. So, I mean, I understand the purview and the directive and the mission of this council. When it makes sense to do exterior modification to retain historical values, I get it. I support it. That's why we lived in the house in the first place. This building is falling down with birds and save it for posterity's sake. It's not going to happen. We're not made of money. We do not, there, as I said last time, there are those who come before you with millions of dollars. We are not one of them. I understand that your purview is structures historic in nature. We're talking about my mother's father. So I guess we'll, you know, if necessary, we will see you in front of city council. Kim, would you like to say something?
No, that's
Thank you. And if we can do this from here, but are there any questions from the BAR of the applicant? Or any questions from the public for the applicant? Sorry, I reversed the order. And we'll see if anybody's hands are raised online. If we have, do we have any participants remotely? If anybody who's participating remotely is interested in commenting on this, just raise your hand virtually. Give it a couple of seconds. Okay, just no questions. And at this point, are there any comments from the public on this? I'm assuming no. Okay, good. So let's move on to any comments from BAR members on this application. Mr. Zemer?
No, I was just gonna say, it's the letter that was sent in considered a comment from the public?
Yes, so I can read that. Sorry.
You all got the letter from, she said she called you.
Thank you for prompting me.
Antoinette?
She sent an email.
Oh, she sent us an email.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, she thinks that maybe, she's the one who said that it might be a kitchen.
And she's of the opinion it was attached initially to the house
House
next
next
door,
door.
built in 1854. There's a sewer line that runs underneath this home.
So we know it's not.
Yeah,
in its
I
original
don't-
It's not
Yeah.
in location.
So, just to cover this, and thank you, I'm going to read what was submitted on civicplus.com through the portal on the city's website. It's from an Antoinette Rhodes. She provides her contact number and her email address and says, "Dear BAR members and staff, this comes to you in the hope that you will defer a decision re Kim and Clay Louder's petition to demolish a small structure behind 507 Ridge Street. I ask because I note that despite obvious extensive background research on the structure, one possibility has not been considered. That is, that it is a dependency constructed by Allen W. Hawkins, 1800 to 1855 were his years, for John Bibb by agreement in 1844. I've lived within the site of this structure since 1987. In about 2004, when I discovered the document I'm about to cite, it occurred to me immediately that it might well be an item described therein. Background: teenaged brick mason Allen Hawkins came to Albemarle with kin in response to Thomas Jefferson's advertisement for workmen to build a new university. He is documented to have worked on serpentine walls and at least on one lawn hotel. In 1829, Hawkins bought from Alexander Garrett the block of land now bounded by Ridge Street, Oak Street, Fifth Street Southwest, and Cherry Avenue. By 1832, he built the local landmark brick cottage that still stands on Fifth for himself. Then he went on to build houses around the block, as well as on other land he purchased for family members and for sales. He and his workers also made the bricks they used in the building, and Hawkins sold the surplus. In addition, at the time, he acted as an agent in Charlottesville for the property and projects of General John Hartwell Koch of Bremo, and I think that's Bremo Bluff. In 1844, Hawkins completed a house commissioned by merchant John Bibb. It still stands as 505 Ridge Street. On May 24th, Hawkins wrote to General Koch that Bibb was at the building a few days back and seemed to be very pleased with the work and told me he intended to get me to build him a kitchen and smokehouse at the place, and him and his wife gave directions how they wanted things to be done, and the directions has been strictly attended by the workmen and myself in every aspect. This is in the letters of the Koch papers, in UVA Special Collections. This does not prove, going back to Ms. Rhodes' email, this does not prove that the little structure, which has certainly been moved about, is one of those buildings mentioned, of course, but to me it strongly suggests that another look is in order. Are the bricks the same as those used at 505 Ridge Street? How about its framing elements, etc.? And if it appears to have that earlier origin, that fact should at least be documented. There is some urgency. When I learned yesterday that this item was on your agenda, I e-wrote the Louders with the information above them. I hope that they would pause the process to allow for further investigation. They responded by making it absolutely clear that the shack, demolition by derogatory language, will be taken down regardless of how BAR or City Council rule. I cannot do more at this point, except that is, hope the little survivor of at least one century, and maybe most of another as well, will get its due before yet another piece of history is permanently deleted from my genuinely historic neighborhood. Sincere thanks for your time, attention, and any consideration, and she signs it. So, I don't believe we've gotten any other comments from the public online. So now, thank you, Mr. Zemer. We'll go to comments from the BAR.
I'll start because I have a feeling I'm going to be alone on this. So at least the BAR that, previous BARs and votes that I've made in the past, there's precedence for taking down much larger portions of historic structures. Also precedence for basically giving quite a bit of free reign to the rear side of historic houses. This is in the rear. It is not visible from the street. It is removal will not change the district. It is very particular to this one property. Through precedent alone, I would be voting for approval, or I would vote for approval of the demolition. Just figured I'd say that because I think I'm going to be alone, but yeah.
I actually will associate myself with your remarks. You are not alone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bailey. Anybody else with comments at this point?
I guess, in reference to the letter that was submitted, and having seen the building, I'm not convinced that it's mid-18th century. Just the saw marks on the framing and just the construction of the framing don't look to me like it's 1840s or something like that. So I think the staff report's probably more accurate, and it's likely 1890s time period. And I don't know, as I mentioned last month, I don't feel like it's beyond repair.
Yeah, I'd like to just mention, I think our purview is fairly narrow here. We've got, even though it's a humble building, it's listed on the National Register, it's a contributing resource. I mean, I think it's our purview to protect buildings like this. And so, I think with that sort of narrow analytical focus, that would be my consideration.
I guess what seems unique to this structure that I wouldn't want to set a precedent for the bar to associate with is that it does seem like a piece of character that we wouldn't want to lose, that it does seem with the windows, with the chimney, that it seems like it was more than a shed at one time, and does seem like a unique piece that we would lose if it is approved to demolish, that is unique, that we don't see a lot in the historic fabric of the city, and that I would be in favor of denying the motion for demolition.
Right.
Yes.
It's interesting you use the word see, because as was pointed out, you can't see it. No one wandering the district can see it for the most part. It isn't contributing in the sense that the public, in some sense or other, gets to enjoy it, is my understanding, which is the notion we have approved in the past things that are behind historic structures and so forth, that were in some sense or other are not in contributing to the fabric of the neighborhood in the sense that people get to see the neighborhood and experience it in that way. So I think that that should be taken into consideration.
We're not selling tickets.
comments, unfortunately, from the applicant aren't appropriate right now, but you will have a, anyway. You do have 3 minutes of rebuttal theoretically, if you'd like to say anything else about this. Yeah. Well, no, before we take a vote, so you're welcome to after this discussion. I find this challenging because we're seeing reasonable people differing strongly on this. And I would note, with no disrespect to the applicant, I've been on the BAR previously. I was on the Planning Commission for 2 terms, and I've been back on this board for 2 years. And I've actually never heard an applicant threaten to demolish something that they legally couldn't demolish. And I don't know how, I don't know how that threat, you said it will come down within a year or 2.
I said that it will come down eventually.
I heard it within a shorter period of time than eventually.
Let me correct myself, I
And,
apologize.
and we can, I mean, we don't have, unfortunately, we used to have court reporters. We do have someone taking minutes. If you caught that
Then
comment,
allow me
maybe,
to correct
maybe I
myself.
misheard it. But I took those comments, and whether you would just, whether you're saying we would just let it waste, or whether you're saying
Yeah,
it
more
will
like
mischievously come down.
No, there was
But it seemed, I'm making comments right now, sir.
I apologize.
I've actually never heard in that spectrum an applicant say that. That they will get their way, and I don't know how that impacts me voting. I'm sitting here thinking, well, does that mean it will be demolished no matter what this board says, or whether it makes me emboldened to vote to deny it? I don't know. I just am noting that for me, it's kind of a shocking comment. And I'm sure the applicant through staff is well aware of, consequences, fines or whatever. And I mean, they may not, those may not be personal concerns for them. But I just want to note for my colleagues that I have not, and we deal with people's private property, and we, there are, we deal with their property rights every single time we're here. And because our guidelines do impose the right for us to do certain things. And I've just never, in all the times, I mean, a demolition is an extreme example of when a property owner wants to do something with their property, but even, I've never had a property owner say, I want to alter it, and if you deny me, I'm gonna alter it anyway. I just have really never heard those words. And like I said, I'm kind of a little bit shocked by them. Not personally, just in a way that I don't know exactly right now how it affects my voting on this, so. Are there any, does the applicant want to, you're welcome to 3 more minutes of
Yeah,
rebuttal or
certainly want to
further
respond to
comment?
that.
Yeah, and if you could stand up, that would be great, just only because the mics, this is a virtual meeting, so if anybody speaks, it's good for you to be near a mic, even though we can
Understood.
hear you just fine, yeah.
Got it. So we wouldn't be here if we didn't respect the process, right, fundamentally. We've lived in the area for 13 years. We have complied with all other asks of this bar, whether they had been installing gutters on the front of the house when I came before you with my young children years ago, whether it's solar panels. So I don't know if perhaps my comments were inarticulate or what. But what I did mean to say is we are not going to allocate the resource that some on this committee would wish us to allocate to maintain this structure in perpetuity. By withholding those, it will eventually fall down on its own. It was not a threat by myself or my wife to, I think what the letter you read mentioned something, but those were not our words. Said something about it will be destroyed imminently. I believe those were Tony's words, but they were not our words. So I apologize for the miscommunication.
There's no apology, if your comments are directed to me, there's no need for an apology. My
We
comment
want to be
stands.
clear that there was no threat issued.
Got it, and
And we
thank
respect the
you.
process here, which is why we are here.
Yeah, thank you very much. And if you'd like to address anything else that was said, you're welcome to. You've got to, I don't think
Other
you've
than,
taken.
I agree with the gentleman that indicated this cannot be seen by the public. Look, and I'm not speaking ill of my neighborhood because we love our neighborhood, but it can be a little rough. There's a 9mm hole sitting in front of my house from a shooting 2 years ago on December 16th. there are drive-bys up the street on Dice. So, you know, do I allow people to traipse around my yard? No. It is completely our property. This shed, the shack, is not visible to anyone unless you're my neighbor. Public can't see it. We're not gonna sell tickets. Again, I respect this body. I respect your mission as described and outlined to maintain the historic fabric of the community for the public. This is not a publicly seen, viewable, or considerate, one that a public can consider. It does not contribute. It is not individually listed on the National Register. It is a contributing building that will not affect the National Register or the local register. I appreciate your purview. I understand your passion. I respect it.
Thank you. Are there any other comments from the board at this time? And if there's a little pause in there, if anybody wishes to make a motion, you're welcome to do so.
Somebody. It's not gonna be me.
I'll make a motion. Having considered the standards set forth within the city code, including the ADC district design guidelines, I move to find that the proposed demolition of 507 Ridge Street does not satisfy the BAR's criteria and guidelines for demolitions, and that for the following reasons, the BAR denies the application as submitted. The proposal is incompatible with historic, cultural, and or architectural character of the district in which the property is located. That is the subject of the application.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Discussion, gentlemen. Is there, anybody want to give any final comments? No pressure, but,
We made our
and I know,
Yeah.
I know that this was discussed at length during the last meeting too.
Would it be
Jeff?
helpful if I reviewed what the results would be?
I have them right up in front of me.
Okay.
I'm happy to do that. I have code section 34, 285, and 286.
And to be clear, I didn't
Yeah.
offer this to anyone, and I did offer if somebody wanted to look at it, let them know, would
Mhm.
they allow that? So there's just, again, the
You mean it's-
position of, if it's,
Yeah.
I suspect it will be lost. So I just want to be very, very clear about my position. I feel a little bit impugned tonight on my efforts to try and help, but.
I just wanted to see where we were.
Fair
I
enough.
didn't know whether there was
No, not by you.
another
but-
plan.
No, there is no other plan, but
Yeah.
it was an option.
And I was trying-
And, it's just trying to, my experience has always been when you begin, not, litigating is not the right word, but the building's loose. And it's like with Tonsler House, where everybody wanted us to, yelling at me to hit them with violations when I really just needed to work with the owner. So that's all I'm saying is, and now, but yes, if in a denial, to be clear, go ahead.
None of this is going to affect our vote.
I know, I just want to make sure
Well, it's,
before,
I
just
think
so,
I think any discussion is appropriate at this
Okay.
point.
Just so you
I'm
understand.
sorry,
It's okay.
and I'm the
All right. No,
chair,
if you
and
wanna hear it,
I'll
you
let
can-
staff
I s-
continue, and I'll
yeah.
let anybody else comment too.
and there's a reason.
I haven't seen a denial in the 2 years that I've served on the BAR. I had said that earlier
Right.
in, our pre-meeting. So I think it is an important juncture for us to discuss what may be ahead.
Yeah, so just to be clear, is we're going into the holiday. I'm off next week. An applicant or any action by the BAR can be appealed. An approval could be appealed. If this is denied, the applicant would have the option to appeal this within 10 working days. So with the various days off, so that Clayton and Kimberly know, an appeal would be, have to come in by January 6th, that Friday. And I'll, if we come to that, but just so that everybody knows that above, what's going on with that. So, sorry to interrupt, but.
No, I was going to say that, and on the other side of the vote if it went that way, so I didn't want to presuppose that. And for the applicants, we're looking at code section, I'm sure you know it, 34-285. It has the exact wording about it, the appeal to council. It does need to be in writing in 10 working days. And then code section 34-286 defines the further appeal. If you didn't get a satisfactory outcome at city council, further appeal to either circuit court or the alternative of putting up for sale. And that's an interesting procedure that we haven't had happen very often, but it's available if you got to that point, so. Any other comments about the motion that's on the floor? I'm happy to just call a vote. So, Mr. Whitney, I'm going to start with you.
Voting yes for denial.
Motion.
The motion on the floor is for denial of the COA.
Yes would be
And yes,
approving the motion.
correct. Yeah.
Yes, I'm voting yes for
Thank you.
denial.
Thanks for clarifying. Mr. Zemer,
Yes.
Mr. Burrell,
Yes.
Mr. Bailey,
No.
Mr. Schwartz,
No.
and I'm going to vote in favor of the motion. So the motion actually carries. And unfortunately, it's been denied.
We'll see you soon.
Yeah, well, you won't see us.
I know.
But circuit, yeah, city council, yep.
I'll send you a note and
And it's just,
whatever you need.
yeah.
We'll clarify all that. I'll send
yeah,
that.
it goes
I mean,
to,
the
yeah,
action memo,
the
yeah.
clerk of court is the person that you want to get it. The clerk of court, the clerk of city council, I'm sorry, clerk of city council is the person you would want to get in touch with. She's publicly available, email. And I think, I would imagine there's no means that I see, so it just has to be in writing. It could be by email. By
Right,
that-
so
by
there's a
that
fee
genius.
for an appeal, and as I said, I can put that all in the action memo. I have to prepare a staff report for council. Council is under there's no statutory shot clock for when they respond. But if an appeal, should you choose that route, that would be,
Oh, no, no.
Yeah,
To
yeah.
be clear, we will see you at city council.
right.
Oh, well, we usually aren't there. We get that night
Well,
off.
I'm sorry, then we will see whoever your
Yeah,
representation is at
So,
city
yeah,
council.
well.
And there may, who knows?
I understand. I'm just trying to lay out the process. I did not write these rules.
And this
so
is
what
from the
will
city
happen.
code. Just one additional thing I did want to mention is that what it has to be sent, I would say, to clerk of council is just notice of the appeal. You don't have to state all your reasons.
Actually, and this was a shift from the last appeal, so that's why I said the statement, your letter of appeal, this was what we dealt with in Preston Place. So the statement of appeal is to say, what are the reasons as laid out by that, and what is allowed, whereas the BAR reviews things in a very small box. City council is allowed to review other circumstances. So, but the last appeal that we had, it was made clear to me by by the legal that that appeal letter was the formal statement. So whatever you need to say needs to be expressed in that letter and outlined. And that's why, that's
And
the
an
last.
attorney representing you might interpret the city code differently.
Yeah.
I'll just say
But I'm
that.
not going to get in a fight with the
It says
city attorney.
notice of appeal, that's it. Notice
Right.
does not mean a brief or a memo. So anyway, thank you very much.
Do you have an example that you could forward to me, or is
I-
that what you handed me?
That was the last demolition denial that I saw on the file. I can send you the last, I can't say it was well done, but it would be, what my understanding is that you would be saying, what are, the reasons based on the guidelines, based on the BAR process that you're appealing,
That we got it wrong.
that you got it wrong.
Yeah.
B, what are those circumstances that you want city council to consider?
And city council is not codified nor limited
Nope.
by their decision-making process that this
Correct.
board feels itself limited by, is that correct?
Correct.
Correct, absolutely correct.
Yeah.
And so that's where that's where I think, and we had talked about this sometime before, is where that's actually how the process is supposed to work. The BAR has to work in that small box. Council can take things into consideration that otherwise the BAR wouldn't pay attention to.
Like an aged grandparent.
Exactly, whatever those circumstances are. So, but I
look
would.
forward to your examples,
I mean,
please.
yeah, I would say the examples I've dealt with, because I've only had 2 appeals, I would not share those as homework you want to copy.
Allison?
And so it would be more,
dance?
yeah, how do you wish to express it? So I'll send you the action memo tomorrow, and then just so you know what the date going into that first week of January, we follow with that. All right?
I hope you all have a wonderful holiday.
All right, Clay, thank you.
Okay, that was a fun way to start our evening. And I apologize for saying that as the chair. It's just not, enjoyable to have a hard application and then have to deny somebody's application too. And I know that staff has tried to maybe avoid that vote and, the outcome. So thank you, Jeff, for what you did.
Well, my challenge is to and I actually have expressed this, I think, to a couple of you, is to really just become a city employee and just do my job and not try to be so helpful, because it gets stuck in a bear trap. But the next one, sorry, my agenda is.
Yeah, the next one is 3rd Street, new construction, certificate of
Oh, that
appropriateness. We've seen this
project.
several times.
Yes.
And Mr. Warner, I don't know if you have a staff report for us?
I do, and let me see if I can get my gizmo to allow me to call this up. And I know Candace is here to present the project. I'm gonna, Candace, just call up the CAD drawings and you, if that would be, let me get those on the.
Sounds like maybe there isn't going to be a staff report, so you're welcome to make
No, there
your
is.
way- Oh,
I
okay,
just,
okay,
I'm
good,
trying
good,
to,
Good.
this is one of the things I'm still working through, where Robert would have, he knew how to, I've got a lot going on my screen. I feel like I'm doing a Monday night football game here, and I don't know which screen to punch, so just gonna have to, I turn 60 in a few days. You all are gonna have to just accept my technological weaknesses here. All right, so on the screen should actually be
Yeah.
that. So, excuse me.
Yeah, you're good.
This is
Whenever you're
3rd Street. This is the COA request for a new residence within the North Downtown ADC district. This is a vacant parcel. It is on the edge of the district. Actually, it's it's at the edge of the boundary. The district itself loops and curls up Park Street. But north of it are outside of the district. There's no history on this site. There's no structures there. It's been vacant, at least relative to anything that's been recorded. This has been before you. This will be the 4th time now. We know that we've had some of the neighbors have expressed their concerns, and we've had the discussion about the distinction between what's in the historic district and what is not. I think the applicant has been very responsive to what the BAR has asked, and I know they've spoken with the neighbors. I'll let them address that. This is the 4th time you are looking at it. I said it's been a rather thorough review for something of this scale. Just in comparison to for the 612 West Main Street, it was reviewed at 6 meetings, and it was about 160 sheets of information submitted. This is the 4th meeting on this, and there's been about 120 sheets of information and drawings submitted. So as staff, I think the opportunity here to make a decision one way or the other. I think this thing has been sort of ridden hard and long, and it's time to make a decision. And I think that I can't say I love architecture and design, it's subjective. And so, but as far as the criteria in the guidelines, to the best of my review, to at least give you all those points to work from, it complies with them. So, but I encourage you to take an action tonight, one way or the other.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And the applicant, time. And if you could take no more than 10 minutes,
I won't.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Candace Smith, and I'm the architect for the new house at 0 3rd Street Northeast. As Jeff mentioned, it is the last parcel at the end of the historic district before 3rd Street actually transitions into Park Plaza, which is not in the district. Tonight, we are requesting approval for the certificate of appropriateness and have made a few more modifications in response to the board's earlier comments. We've included a hipped roof at the front porch, alternate paint colors, if the board cannot approve the preferred scheme, and provided details for the porches and railings, as well as confirmed material selections for lights, garage doors, roofing, gutters, downspout siding, and windows. In prior reviews, we discussed the height of the structure, which we have significantly reduced, up to 2 feet. As well as modulating the overall massing with a brick plinth at the ground floor and 2 floors of siding above. In addition, we've moved a front gate behind the front facade of the house to a location where a fence might otherwise be located. And we have paint colors and brick samples here to share in actual physical paint chips and brick board if you want to see those directly. More careful work and modifications to the existing grades now show the front courtyard entered by a few steps down from the adjacent Head Street easement, and with a path traversing the front of the house to the private driveway on the north side of the house. A landscape plan and planting list have been modified to include many native plants and other shrubs and smaller trees that are on the approved city list. Because of the overhead lines, no large street trees are included, although a large serviceberry tree is planned for the corner of the Head Street easement and the sidewalk. We have provided Jeff with photos showing the extent of those overhead lines, and I have a paper copy if we need that. 2 Japanese maples are planned to flank the ground floor entry porch and the new front door that is at ground floor level. Specific attention has been paid to the northern property line that abuts the downhill neighbor, with a large Virginia sweet spire shrubbery taking the place of much of the privet hedge that currently, both of these would now extend down to the sidewalk. At the interior court on the north side, past the front of the house, a very short wall is planned on the owner's side, resulting in a retaining wall of approximately 4 feet against the neighboring property line. A low metal fence would be added onto that wall as a guardrail from the courtyard side, and this will be planted with trained pyracantha to provide natural screening and also allow for some natural southern light to reach the neighbor's porch. Thank you for your time and comments at previous meetings, and I'm happy to answer any additional questions and comments you have at this time.
And did you say you do have materials
Mhm.
here? I think it would be just fine if you want to walk them over to the dais either way, and we'll just turn them down. I mean, it's the old-fashioned way that we used to do it in the BAR.
Okay, just grab this.
Might be the easier way to handle it as we're just kind of moving forward discussion. Are there any questions from the public for the applicant? And I'll wait for a moment to see if any hands are raised. If anyone joining us remotely wants to ask any questions of the applicant, just raise your hand virtually. And are you seeing anyone? Okay, I think that's it. Sure, you can just hand it here to Roger. And
That's the brick sample, and this is the original paint sample. It was passed around last meeting.
Sure.
And these are alternates, just happen to have 2
Two of us
copies.
were not here at the last meeting, so we're
Right.
happy to, yeah.
So this is the original.
That's what
Ooh,
we
nice and heavy.
proposed.
We need to look at this.
Okay.
The other one's a little bit more muted grays.
Do the renderings in the presentation are the original?
Thank you. Are you gonna be my prop guy? Thank you.
The renderings in your presentation, or in the application, are the original?
Here we go.
The preferred colors, yes.
Yes, yes, although,
It's a rendering.
right,
Sure.
and the computer's.
There's
Yes,
2
ma'am.
copies of this, okay.
Thank you.
I have a question for that.
Ooh. Go ahead, Mr. Whitney.
Yeah, well, they had them in the
We have a question from BAR member.
We've had some discussion about the railings previously, and in your application, the railings are listed as solid panels or metal pickets for the front porch. Is there an intention for one or the other, or?
We would prefer the solid panels for consistency throughout the house. We have a drawing of the metal pickets at the front porch, but it is not something the owner really wants to venture into unless that's what is going to make it or break it.
Okay.
So I have those available if need be. But it's a coloring and paneling that's repeated throughout, 4 levels of porches on the sides.
Any other questions from the board for the applicant? Should we move on to comments from the public? And if is anybody joining us virtually who wants to comment, just raise your hand virtually, or is it press star 9? Press something. Maybe it'll virtually put your hand up. There is one person? Okay, good. Ms. White, can you hear us? Maybe she's.
Okay, yeah, my name is Roxanne White, and I'm the adjacent property owner on the north side. I guess my question is whether you all received the comments that we submitted about the street trees. That was the only comment that we had this time.
We did, and I was actually prepared to read your email to us.
Okay.
In its entirety, at the end, but I'm glad
Oh.
you're on. You're welcome to give any other comments about this application, that supplement what you sent to us.
No, I just, I didn't know whether you all had a chance to see that. So
Yeah,
I'll
just-
wait. I may have a comment after you
Okay.
all talk about it.
Well, as long as I'm there, I'll just read it. So we received an email from adjacent property owners, David and Roxanne White, and they are at 505 Park Plaza. This was received today. In response to the latest and final submission from the property owners of 0 3rd Street, we have the following comments regarding the planting of street trees in the front of the property. 1, the BIR asked the applicants to present a landscape plan that would include street trees at the front of the property in line with historic district guidelines that, quote, encourage the maintenance and planting of large trees on private property along the street fronts, which contribute to the, quote, avenue, unquote, effect. And then paragraph 2. At the November 15th BAR meeting, the architect stated that street trees will be coming back, but there is an overhead line that goes right through the sidewalk. That's where the dark line is. So the amount of space that is allowed for a street tree is barely going to be on the corner at the old Head Street, end quote. And then Ms. White and Mr. White's comments were, the unused Comcast cable line to which she referred has been removed, so any constraints that kept the owner from planting large trees across the front of the property are no longer in place. Street trees in the front of the house would provide shade not only for the house and the sidewalk, but more importantly, they would help minimize the massive size and height of the house compared to the rest of the neighborhood. Using the first landscaping plan submitted by the applicant shown below, and I would note that in our email, the Whites provided the initial landscape plan and then the final landscape plan submitted today in kind of reduced size. Using the first landscape plan submitted by the applicant, as shown below, which did not include the secondary or perhaps unnecessary sidewalks to the driveway and the easement, such a plan would allow more green space and less brick in front of the house and a larger planting space for a street tree. 3, the submitted landscape plan proposes to plant a serviceberry tree, and I'm not going to go into the Latin word for that, which according to the city's master tree list is a small tree, not a street tree. The southeast corner of the property provides adequate planting space for a large tree, e.g. willow oak or London plane, which would not only help provide shade to this walkable neighborhood, but would align with the BAR's desire for the avenue effect. And that's the end of that email. So we'll just kind of submit that into the record. And while I'm at it, there was also another email that was received in the way of comments from the public. It's from a Sarah Johnson, sent 2 days ago. and it's directed to Jeff Warner. Jeff, I won't be able to participate in the December 20th, 2022 BAR meeting due to a long-planned family event. I would like to thank you and the BAR members for your respectful treatment of neighbor concerns about the subject property and compliance with the ADC district design guidelines over the last 4 months. My objections to the application have not changed. In the event that the BAR approves the owner's COA application with conditions at the December 20th meeting, I request that the BAR also require that the final be submitted by the applicant for the record. Thank you and happy holidays. And that's Sarah Johnson, who resides at 500 Park Plaza. Those were the only comments that we received by email. Any other comments from the public on this? Then I'll turn to comments from the board.
I guess mine's a question based on that previous emailed comment. Could the applicant clarify the overhead wire
Sure.
concern? Please. Yes, you said you had a picture, so.
Show the overhead lines.
Oh, sorry, there, that's the picture.
So the cable line that Roxanne was talking about was about midway through the line across Mr. Lowry's property that angled over to the ridge of their home, which was not affecting what we were doing.
The, kind of the lower hanging one, or?
It's not there.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
This is what's there now.
Got it, thank you.
Down within, 12 feet of the ground.
But there still are overhead lines,
Significant.
Yeah.
Go crosswise.
just to clarify that, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that photograph is last Monday or Tuesday.
Thank you.
And I'll have rebuttal time, so I'll comment on the trees
Yeah.
next time.
Okay.
It's a really deceptive because they're coming at all different angles, but there's a single electrical line that's definitely designed.
Got it.
It's-
You mean
it's
like
not
the second,
quite as
the second
crowded as it
one?
looks, but yeah, there's
That one shows it better. This is a comment from Mr. Schwartz.
Yeah, this follows right across the top of the sidewalk, and that I'm pretty sure is electrical.
Does the sidewalk extend, sorry, it's another question. Does the sidewalk extend all the way to the corner
Yes.
currently?
It
Or
stops
does
at
it
the
stop?
power pole
Oh, okay,
on the left.
gotcha.
But if I could say that the sidewalk on the corner of Hedge and Third, there's no dirt between the sidewalk and the street there. So this medium-sized street tree or small street tree by the telephone pole has to be on the
Your side.
property,
Right.
just immediately inside the sidewalk.
Thank you.
The line is shown on the site plan, but it's hard to read.
Sure.
You know, it's over there.
Just want to say that the three-dimensional modeling has really helped here as far as describing the massing. And I would think that it would satisfy some of the earlier concerns about the mass of the house. I think that's a real positive. Tyler mentioned the railing, and I saw that too, that was an option.
Right.
To me, that's a pretty strong statement. The front porch is already sort of atypical from the neighborhood. And I think having a closed panel there sort of separates the front porch even more. It makes it a little, even more different than sort of what is typical. So I'd prefer a picket rail of some sort.
Living just a block away, our front porch is on the second floor, and it also is enclosed in this way. So what's typical?
Further comments about what's been submitted to us?
Just, I mean, it's a residence, it's a new residence, so I think there is some leeway for some things that are atypical. I mean, I think, yeah, we've kind of discussed this one to death. My only thought would be, where you've got the Virginia Sweet Spire, if there's a way to maybe, because you filled your entire site, basically. And there really isn't a lot of room for any sort of large tree anywhere, except for perhaps that spot between the driveway and the neighbor's property. And I'm wondering if you have considered potentially putting a large tree there, where it's back a little bit further from the power lines. And that might at least, yeah, go a little bit towards the city's goal of, more canopy trees, and same thing for the historic district.
Just curious, would the neighbors think that the tree was now shading their porch?
I mean, it would be. It would very well be.
Okay, just saying.
But seems like they're favorable to that. I would take the email.
So, yeah, it's my only comment. I mean, very approvable. I would love to see some way to fit a decent-sized tree somewhere on the property, and I think that would be a good spot, because it would also be visible in the front, and it would shade your driveway area as well.
And I'll give the applicant and his representative in a moment just that chance to reply, since we maybe get through any other comments from board members.
I just want to commend the applicant on working through the process and breaking down the size a little bit, and working through breaking down the massing. And I think the project has developed in better interest for the neighborhood and for the owner, I hope, as well.
Any other comments? And so go ahead, time for the applicant for any final comments, rebuttal, clarification, anything?
Interesting that the idea of a tree on the northern end of my client's property. We've been responding a lot to the next door neighbor who's not in our district, and purposely set the building back a great deal from that right northern property line, have made an addition that approaches their house 2-story instead of 3-story. I am reluctant to make more changes, but they are used to having a 6-foot privet hedge all the way to the sidewalk. And I would think they would want a flowering shrub there rather than a tree, because if you look at the, Jeff, maybe you can go back to those overhead line photos. Trees don't last forever. They die and get replanted and other things happen. But that's the crepe myrtle that is in the front of Roxanne's and David's house, which is considered a small tree. It obviously gets big. The Japanese maple flanking the front of our building will get large, but a large street tree. Now granted, we in our rendering put a little serviceberry on the corner, and it gets much bigger than what we probably have drawn. We didn't want to overwhelm the drawing with shrubbery, as we say. But a large street tree, in my understanding, has a 40-foot diameter canopy. Both Roxanne's house and our house are within 21 and 25 feet of the property line, which is, within 3 or 4 feet of the sidewalk. Well, it is the edge of the sidewalk. So if you did plant a large street tree, it would always be deformed and not able to be its full canopy, because it wouldn't fit, whether it was our house or her house. So just sort of a thought on that.
Yeah.
I'm sure that if it was a up or down vote, that my client would, at this point, plant any tree that you would like, even if it became deformed. And I have drawings of we did not spend a lot of time developing a metal railing. I'd rather sort of wait for the board to say, if you don't have this, we're not approving it, but I can show you this if need be. It is back to architecturally thinking about that solid rail. Thanks, Mr. Bailey, for your comparison of up the street. It would be very different if we had stayed with the original plan of a solid plinth with stairs all the way up and the front door at the first floor level. Because then we would want that to be the front porch. But now that's a upper porch, and you actually enter through. And Jeff, I don't know if you can go to another 3D view that actually looks in. One more.
Keep going.
Like, that actually is looking through that brick portico to the door. And the upper part is really more of a private porch rather than the front door. And, we expect people, including the client, will be using this front door frequently. A lot more stairs to climb, but at least they're inside if it's snowing or icy. So, so I'd be happy to share this if it's going to make or break things.
Can I just say one thing
Mhm.
here? There's five or six of these 3D views. I don't know if you all have seen them before in your
Mhm.
package. You have seen them, okay, great. And then this is probably a good way to look at it. So you see we've got the two, I just went by there to make sure I had my facts straight. We've got the two Japanese maples right in front of the house. And then we feel like there's room to the left by the, past the telephone pole for one, let's call it, street tree. But because of the telephone pole, it needs to be a medium-sized street tree. We chose one. I'm open to suggestions, as Candace said at this point. I don't know if there's room for another street tree. I just went down there, Jeff, and the street trees in the neighborhood are 7 or 8 feet.
Yeah, they're just dogwood along there,
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're not
basically.
Yeah, it's all
strong.
dogwood.
I don't even know the species. So I feel like that part's being scrutinized, but like Candace said, at this point, tell us what species you want. I feel a bit like we've got room for a medium street tree by the telephone pole. If you added a second street tree, I just think it's gonna become too large over time.
Thank you.
Those are my only comments, and thank you for your time.
Yeah. Can I go back to the railings? I wondered if we could just take a little straw poll on where members are with that, just because the applicant's rep kind of asked if there was some.
Would it be helpful to see?
Sure. Well, I think, any of the other views that show the other porches too, sure. Yeah, that's good. So comments about the, for lack of a better word, I'll call it a privacy panel versus pickets. Anybody have any issue with what the applicants presented? We've heard from a couple members.
I will say that during the pandemic, we would sit on our second floor porch and wave at people. They can see you there. It's not like you're completely cut off from the public. And so we would have our cocktails and wave at people, and there you are. So it's not an unfriendly thing to do.
But you never threw any necklaces or anything down.
No.
When I walked by, but that,
I think.
But we tried to ignore Jeff.
Let me just cut
but-
that conversation
Strike
off.
that from the minutes.
I know, I got a bad image right now. I have to like get that out of my head.
I'll say that, I think with the circular windows in the, both the front door and the upper front door, if you will, I think those tie into the design motif that you've shown in the privacy panel, using Sherry's words. So I think that actually helps the overall design of the building. I think that's a desire of the client. I don't think there's something in our guidelines that says we can't allow that. Like Carl said, it's a new building. I think that the circular window in those doors becomes really out of place if you go to a picketed railing. So I think it's something that helps kind of bring a cohesive design all the way around the building. So I support it.
And maybe avoids a false historicism that the picket gets into with that look, which is not what you're trying to achieve, so. Okay, good. So is anybody feeling like making a motion here? Anybody?
I'm just gonna add that the tree is not a hill that I'm gonna die on. It just seems like personally, I feel like if you have any spot where a large tree could fit, you should put one there just as a community service. But, yeah, as far as we're concerned, I'm gonna let it go.
Any other comments, or if anybody's ready with a motion?
is that,
Oh, Roxanne White has raised her hand. I think we're beyond comments from the public at this point, unfortunately, so I'll apologize to Roxanne on that, but I think we've taken up 3 minutes for her and her husband's comments.
Does anybody have it up?
I keep trying to find the motion.
I was just thinking, where is it? It's probably towards the beginning.
always, yeah,
I found
it's
it.
underneath discussion. In fact, God,
I've got
my
it.
goal is get it
One-
no further than
I've
the
got it if
second
you want.
Okay.
page. Yeah,
Go ahead.
it's
Sure.
on the bottom of the
All
second
right,
page.
there we go.
Having considered the standards set forth within the city code, including the ADC district design guidelines, I move find that the new residence at 0 3rd Street Northeast satisfies the BAR's criteria and is compatible with this property and other properties in the North Downtown ADC District, and that the BAR approves the application as submitted.
Second.
Mr. Bailey seconds. Is there any further discussion on
May I
this?
just clarify,
Yeah.
there's the note in there about the alternate Lariapi. And just wanted, it was something that I discussed with the applicant, just using the motion to memorialize that. So,
I
James,
think
you had
there's-
left off the last few words there, didn't know, making sure you're okay with that. If I could rephrase, the end of the motion was BR approves the application as submitted with the alternate Lariapi as noted in the staff report.
All right, I'll second that too.
Accept the
The amended motion's been made and seconded. Any other further comments? Then I'll ask for a vote. Mr. Whitney,
I'll vote yes for approval.
Mr. Zemer,
Aye.
Mr. Burrell,
Aye.
Mr. Bailey,
Aye.
Mr. Schwartz.
Yes.
And I'll vote aye as well. The motion passes unanimously. Congratulations. Thanks for your patience.
Sorry, James, I just
We look forward to
wondered
seeing
if
the
you left
house.
that up for a reason.
Welcome to the neighborhood. Yeah.
All right. And please take the sign down off the phone pole. That's,
Thanks for y'all's patience in working with us.
Yeah, oh, thank you.
I do. No,
Okay.
I'm good.
I think that-
I know
was
where
that hers or
I know where you
Jeff's?
work.
I think.
You know what bothers me
hers.
when I go home late and I see
She
you're
got
still
it,
up there
but she
working, I
wanted-
gotta start banging on the window and say, you gotta go.
So we're going to move on to an application for a certificate of appropriateness for 300 Court Square. And I'll ask Mr. Warner how much time he needs to get the staff report pulled up. You good? You ready? I can,
Let me just reset some things so that I can. I'm not very good at
and
pushing the
if
buttons.
you want to have a seat, we're just going to do the staff report first. So he'll go, and I don't know how long he plans to go. Sometimes
Sometimes I just go.
Sometimes
you
he
know,
just goes,
they hit
sometimes he
me and
stops. We don't
they
know what
stop.
it is, but I just didn't want you to be lingering.
Practicing my GRE words. So, and I appreciate that, Ms. Lewis, because, yeah, there is some, this is some of the discussion we had at the preliminary meeting, and so I don't need to go over that. But this is a, excuse me, COA request for 300 Court Square, otherwise known as the Farish House. The Colonial Hotel, it's been many things, but it was constructed in 1854. The annex wing that is, runs along 6th Street, let's do this. The annex wing that runs along 6th Street, and I'll pull up the images in a second, was built in the 1880s. You all had, we had a preliminary discussion as required last November, in November, and went through several issues. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to go back and take notes from all of that, but a lot of discussion about the brick finishes and the brick repairs. And so in the staff report, and it will help if I have these here now. I'm going to go with, the renderings are, I think, there are renderings and there are elevations, and there's also sections that, but I think the renderings sort of on the initial discussion, and certainly whatever the architect and applicant prefer, we'll switch to. But so on this is the north elevation of the building. That's 6th Street on the left, Jefferson Street in front. There are small windows on either side of the opening there that they have requested to remove. The front entrance, which is currently not historic, an installation of something more appropriate to the period. Adding the shutters back on, we know that there were shutters there. Don't know what they looked like, but we know there is shutter hardware. So and then around the, as you know, the east side, there had been an entrance, a portico there on the entrance, which was removed. They would like to reconstruct that. There are some issues with, and I don't want to say uncertainties, I just say there is an encroachment line, there's a partial boundary there somewhere. I don't know precisely where it is, but it extends about, from what I can tell, what we can determine, to the handicap ramp. This is providing the access, the ADA access. We'll come back to this portico in a second. Around the, that's on this, the east elevation, again, the reason and certainly Candace can explain better than I, but the issue with the metal fire escape, so it is staying in place. That's a code issue, or a code decision. So the decision was made to incorporate that metal stairs into the reconstruction of the portico. And the original portico we know was single story, but by going up somewhat encloses that metal structure. Then down on this southeast corner, there is a door that clearly not historic, but they are up. They're improving that door as probably an entrance a little more appropriate than what's currently there. This is, if you were behind Channel 29 and looking north, so there is a courtyard area there. You see on the right-hand side is that 1880s annex, and then on the left-hand side with the Bermuda shutters is the back of the 1850s Farish House. So, and then the tan-colored brick that you see, that's elements of the Monticello Hotel. So what is being added here is this terrace, trellis space, have some internal space with it, but this is all in the back. And I think, so kind of now working back around, we had previously looked at Bermuda shutters on more of the building. BAR expressed some concern about that. In the staff report, well, first and foremost, I think I see no issues with, this addition in the rear. It doesn't read as historic. It meets, the addition of, kind of trying to make the rear of the building useful. It's not trying to mimic the history. I think the Bermuda shutters are, because of the rear elevation, because they are reversible, because this is the only place they're going, and they are not altering the openings, I'm inclined to suggest approval of those. So, and going back around the building again, no issues, again, the shutters, no issues with the doorway at the far left. The questions for the BAR will be, and I know I haven't talked about the color palette and the brick repairs, but if the portico reconstruction, and they provided, I asked Barry to provide more detail. That was that section that you all saw, and there are also photographs from some other sites where, I think Second Yard, where they're looking to model. So this is not and I say it in staff report, this is not a reconstruction of the historic portico. That's fine. The guidelines don't require that. And in fact, the other option, you really go very contemporary. The guidelines would support that. Again, the two-story portico, it really trying to conceal that metal fire escape. If the design is okay, then I would say you all can approve the COA, but I very clearly with a condition that there is an encroachment issue would have to be resolved. So you would be saying that the design is acceptable as long as it's, can be shown, it can be built there. It may require, again, I haven't seen a plat, a current updated drawing. I don't know the exact measurements, but it's safe to assume that there would be an encroachment, have to be resolved, and that would be through city council. And essentially, anything that's built, has to be built within the setback. This is zero, so they can build to the lot line, but not beyond. And so an encroachment would be conditioned upon approval by city council. Same set of circumstances with the awning at the front entrance. It's supported by poles. I know that the awning adjacent in the Monticello Hotel is held up with rods from the wall. There are no poles in the right-of-way. However, anything built out that extends into the public right-of-way, there would still need to be a resolution of that encroachment. The lights, the gas lights that are proposed, there are some height issues they would have to meet. So from a design standpoint, you all can decide on those, but there are, it's just like a projecting sign. It has to be a certain height. People walking the sidewalk aren't hitting their heads on lamps hanging from walls. There are lights proposed in the sidewalk at the base of the pilasters. Likely, I don't know, but likely an encroachment issue there. So if they're acceptable, again, it'd be something that you would probably want to address with a condition. There are lightings at the top of the pilasters. Then the ornamentation I addressed, there's a lot going on there, and I think, there's planters on the railings, the flags. These are things that will be added to that building. So hopefully, if you have comments on them, we can address them. And then finally, I think the question of the 4 windows, and I don't have the historic photo. You all are familiar with
Yeah.
what I'm saying. So I can't say. I know that in the 1915 photograph there are 3 windows. So we know at least 3 of them were there in 1915. They are not of the same. They're different light configuration. But my house is built of a whole bunch of things from other houses. So I don't know, it wasn't unusual in the 1800s to be borrowing things from other places. So that the lights don't match doesn't necessarily mean, they weren't put in at the same time. However, we don't know. So I think we can assume that the 3 at least were there in 1915, may have been there earlier. I did look up the Secretary standards do allow for removal of non-period historic elements. So that's understanding that they are historic in their age and context, but they are not historic to a period of the house that or the building that they're restoring to. So they do allow the removal as long as it's documented. But then the bigger question becomes, how do you treat the opening? And I meant to bring an image, but the idea is, if they're removed, is the brick wall too thin, as if there was never anything there, or is the wall repaired in a manner that infills the opening such that it's evident that there were windows there at one time, even if they are no longer present. So so that's why I was going to say, not just a matter of for you all discussing removal of the windows or not. If you do okay removal, then you need to also include a discussion about how the opening is treated. And then finally, as you said, the repairs that we know about to the brick, and how the treatment of that with the applicant. The the option of a lime coating, either red or white, but the intent is to put some coating on once the repairs are made. And as I said, the final thing, I think, is if there are elements in this tonight that are clearly acceptable, and I encourage you all to approve a COA that addresses those and omits anything that there's further discussion on, or and certainly omitting anything that you absolutely cannot accept. That would allow the applicant to move forward with, to a large extent, with the remaining pieces of the project. And in fact, there was also on the portico, this is in one of the details, it's possible that, and I just want to make sure I don't forget in the discussion, is that it's possible, and if you want to address it in the motion, that if the property line runs to right there, that they would omit the stairs, that would have a railing, but that would still incorporate the ramp that they want to have. So just if that option, if you feel strongly one way or the other, make sure we account for that. Sorry, that's a lot going on with it, but this is a really neat project with a lot happening, and I want to continue to work with the applicants as much as we can. And as I said earlier, if there are things that determination can't be made on, I think there's room here to omit those, and they would be evaluated later as a separate COA. So it wouldn't be deferring items, it would be simply removing them from the scope. And if they were to be pursued, they would come back to you all as a separate design review request. So, anything you have for me? Yes, sir.
I understand about the encroachment, I think, but I'm looking at the Holsinger's 1915 photo, and that portico that's on that, I mean, it's much further out than anything they're going to build there.
There are, and that's where the property line, whatever the current, I found something in a drawer in NDS from the 70s, and it shows the property line like running inside the building. So it would be whatever the current, wherever the surveyor says it is. So what I'm saying is I don't know where that is to the inch, but I think that if you all, from a design perspective, if that thing, sir, if it can only be 2 feet from the wall, that maybe changes the design. But if it's a matter of an inch or two, you're okay with the design with a condition that you all are not granting a building permit. You all are just simply approved. You would not be granting encroachment. You would not be authorizing, right? And there's a reason I'm being very precise about this, and it's not related to this project. So.
Okay.
Any other questions on the staff report? So now the applicant. And if you could introduce yourselves, and if you could limit your comments to 10 minutes.
Sure.
We've received your materials, and they've been publicly available for a little time, but the clock will start. And put a couple seconds on because I've talked into your time.
Thank you, Jeff, for the recap on our project. I'm Candace Deloach, and I own the Inn at Court Square block down from the hotel, and I also have Deloach Design, and we're collaborating with our architect, Barry Moss. And we're here to answer any questions you have and discuss anything you have questions about. We have a lot of obstacles to face with the surrounding buildings. So the 500 Court Square has a large chiller that we're trying to screen, and then the 29 News building has large satellites. So the front view is beautiful, but our back view is not so great. So we're trying to deal with that with the guest rooms and the terrace.
Thanks, Candace. I might just clarify where the property line really is. We have had a survey done, and it is, the property line is on the plan that I submitted to you, but Jeff is correct, it runs right through the annex building. So like 2 or 3 feet of the building is in the right of way. And you are correct, it appears to me that the original portico was well out. Yeah. So our stairs are over the property line on the portico. And we would pursue, in fact, I think we are pursuing the idea of acquiring an easement for that, of course. Some of the lanterns may project over the property line on the front of the building. Of course, the flagpoles, but they're removable. And the awning, of course, and the sidewalk lighting. But to recap a couple of things that we discussed at the last meeting, we do have a color scheme now that has been a lot of work for the owners to determine, and it's represented accurately, I think, in these renderings. And we have removed the Bermuda shutters on the south side of the annex, where they're seen by the public. The owners feel pretty strongly about the idea of the shutters on the back of 300 Court Square to try to obscure that view of the wonderful satellite garden that we have in the backyard there. The other item, the windows on the front, we went back and looked at that. We submitted some photographs, and it looks very clear to me, and I agree, that they were additions after the original 1857 construction. We just don't know when. And we would request to remove those and replace them with an infill panel of brick that is per the Secretary's guidelines. It presents some difficulty for our interior floor plan as well to leave those windows there. But I think since it's so difficult to determine when they were put in, we just see in the discussion that it's a benefit to the community to tidy up this building to what we think may have been the original design intent of this building. So that's where we are on that. I believe those are the major changes from the last presentation, and I'll turn it over to you guys to ask questions. Okay.
First, we'll have any questions from the public, including public joining us virtually. I'll give them a couple minutes to raise their hand and have our city staff tell me that there's someone who's raising a hand to ask a question about this matter from the applicant. I don't see one yet. Okay. And then questions from us for the applicant.
I'd like a clarification on the red wash. I know in the application you mentioned a sample on the building. I went and looked, and is it directly next to the whitewash sample, like by where the new portico will be going? Is that?
Yeah, I'll pull that image up too that Carl has shared, if that helps with your question. I don't know which one is preferred. Oh, it's not coming up, sorry. It's not.
That would be great.
So this is a building in Yorktown, so that's the effect we're trying to get.
Yeah.
This is the sample.
Do you mind just after you just passing that around if it's helpful? Yeah, or no, or just we can just pass it and we'll get it back to you. That's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, that's what you had shared. Sorry.
And I haven't gotten that email yet, I don't know why. I've gotten other emails during this meeting, but anyway, so
But-
sorry about
So
that.
Jeff,
In the
we've
image,
darkened
yeah.
those up a little bit, even since, well, did you take that?
That was
tonight?
taken today.
Yeah, I just
we
was sharing,
worked on it
yeah.
a little bit this afternoon.
Yeah, Carl had gone out there and just, he referenced it in an earlier discussion. I figured if it was helpful, but
So more
certainly.
the column is where it's dark and light is more what we're going for.
Okay.
The one on the left's a little pink and white. That was where John had originally done the sample, so we were working on top of a lot of white. So it came out a little pink, because we did use red wash and white wash, lime wash.
There isn't a red wash by itself, just a red
No.
oxide.
Oh, okay.
There's something that looks like that to
Yeah.
the right of it.
Yeah,
but
that
that
was-
was not done by us.
Right.
Confused me, yeah.
Right. And the bottom is all what's originally there. All the bottom white.
So you're not really going for a wash effect. I mean, the picture that you show of the house, that looks like it used to be painted white, and it's just, over time, is no longer painted white.
Right, and our building was painted white, and then,
Right,
yeah,
but the
so.
white is, so
And
you're
then
trying to,
someone
you're
did
trying
a
to
red wash
artificially
trying
make
to
that.
cover up the original white paint, and so
Yeah.
it's gone through a lot of changes.
Interesting.
Other questions for the applicant or further discussion on the non-whitewashing brick treatment, whatever we should call it?
It's a lime
Thank you.
wash.
Okay, lime wash. Thank you.
Because we have to do that to cover up all the decaying, brick and stuff.
Are, we had some discussion about this before, though. Are you, how do you feel about just a red wash versus trying to do this? Your application is for this whitewash effect. Is there any option
we
for
used a
doing that?
red wash, you know, we heard what y'all said last
Mhm.
time, so we definitely added in the red wash. But I don't think any of us are a fan of just all the red wash. It's on there now.
Mhm.
And I just think it looks too even with the mortar ends up being pink, and so I like
Okay.
the light and the dark, and
So that is not, you're not, that's not an option that's on the
I
table?
I think we're trying to use the red wash to, bring in what y'all had suggested, but I don't think any of us want a all red building, all red
Okay.
building, red wash building.
Further questions?
So the paint scheme, in the application, you had kind of labeled which color went with, like, which was the trim and which was the shutters and the doors, and kind of shown it on the rendering, but then the sample that y'all did on the building is a little confusing, I guess, because you got, and yeah, I went by and saw it.
So, yeah.
Because
So
you
the
painted the
doors-
railing the dark color, but then you've got the surround around the front door as the, call it minty, this mintier color, but that doesn't exactly, like, the mock-up doesn't match the rendering.
Right, we don't have shutters, so the shutters are gonna be the, kind of eucalyptus green. The door, the front door is a dark green, which is the green there. And then the gray owl is the light trim around the casings and the doors
And the cornice,
and the cornice.
and the portico, and the back deck.
So the samples, we were just doing that to look at different options originally,
Yeah.
and we just didn't paint over them to.
So I guess with this front door in particular, right now the door itself is painted green. Y'all are proposing taking that out and
We
doing.
put back the, like, the original high door.
Right. But that all that around it, so it's showing a sort of a double door with shutters beside it. And your intent's that, and it's, I guess it's hard 'cause it's in the shadow, but the door itself will be dark and then the shutters are the light.
So on
With
the
that-
front door, there's two sets of doors, and they'll all be the dark green, or the green. And
Okay.
then all
Oh,
the.
right, you were gonna reuse the doors.
Right,
beside
the
it,
inside
right.
doors and the exterior doors, and then the shutters will be the,
Okay.
eucalyptus green.
Okay, thanks.
And then the gray owl is the casings and terrace. and-
Gotcha. Sure.
Thank you. In the picture you have, there's, sort of, for lack of a better word, on the Sixth Street porches. And I guess on the top of the pediment, it looks like there's another color that, and I know this is not turning out very well, but it looks pinkish and definitely different than the owl, whatever color you call, the more.
Gray owl.
Gray owl, thank you.
We didn't paint the pediment, so it's probably.
Okay, so it's just doing, but this is actually on the artist's rendering. It looks like this detail here, and would that be painted to match the brick, kind of the lime wash, or?
So the cornice will be the, this will be the gray owl.
Right, but above.
And
That's just the printing, it's gray out.
It is, it's the same, okay, okay. So, and all of the porches would be the same?
Gray out.
It's just for some reason it's appearing as a different, okay,
Yeah.
okay, got it, thank you.
So it's-
Perfect.
I may be losing my mind. You, the staff report references some photos of the lights, and then I swear I saw them, and I'm not finding them in the presentation. Are they in here? Did I hallucinate that?
New Orleans lanterns, yes.
It's a link to the series of photographs
In this,
from last month.
Okay.
oh, got it. And that's in the staff report?
Yeah, it seemed,
Okay.
you know, you're younger
That's
and
what
I
I thought I
figure
remember
more
seeing
tech
them.
savvy.
Oh,
But
boy.
I can pull it, I've got it all here, I can pull that up.
Were the lights that were to be installed, the uplights from the sidewalk
Have
and
not
then the downlights that are on top of the pilasters, are those?
Do not have a
Okay.
detail.
They're shown in the rendering.
Yes, I'm just wondering if there's
A
no
cut
specs
sheet,
or
yeah.
anything for them yet.
Well, I can tell you at the top of the pilaster, it's a lumens copper sconce.
Okay.
And at the sidewalk, it's a lens. We really don't see
Mhm.
anything, so.
Okay. Okay. Good, I thought I was going a little bit crazy. I don't remember seeing a picture of a lantern.
It's a real traditional New Orleans, double O lantern.
You're gonna remove the paint on the capitals of the pilasters that are on one side.
That's
Uh,
the plan.
Hopefully not by sandblasting.
Yeah, it's odd, because one side of the building they're painted and one they're not, I know.
The awning on the entryway, custom awning with black and white Greek wave pattern, what is the material you're in? Did I miss the material call on that?
It's just a canvas umbrella, New York style. you
Oh,
know,
okay.
Type awning, it's not hard construction.
Got it. And with bronze copper poles, I saw that
That's
and
it.
internally
Right.
illuminated, okay. Hmm. Anybody jump in?
Are we on comments?
I think still
Still
in
questions.
questions, yeah.
I guess we're asking questions. Again, the front portico and antis. Some of what I would see is read as trim. It looks like it's painted the mint color, like the balcony, the frieze of the balconies, but, okay, I think that would want to match the trim.
Right. And the ceilings are like a robin egg blue, both on the front porches and the portico as well. And the inside ceiling.
I hate that word.
do
I
you?
don't know why.
What word?
Paint? blue?
Hank's blue, it's a southern thing. Looks
Yeah,
good though.
I like that.
I love it. There's like 1,000 different reasons. Keep the ghosts away, keep the mosquitoes away.
Buzz
I'm sure
away.
it does
Hey,
any of
works for
that.
both. Have you seen any ghosts on a porch with that? No.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Any other questions for the applicant? Thank you, then. We'll go to comments from the public. Anybody in this room that has comments, or if there's anyone joining us remotely that could raise their hand and I'll flash up. I'm not seeing anyone either. Thank you, Remy. And comments on this application from the board.
Oh, boy.
And I was gonna say, maybe, in the spirit of, Jeff's entreaty to us, maybe focus on the things that, could be included in a motion to approve the COA. I would maybe start on that side, and then maybe objections or things that need to be, you know, that may not be, not have a lot of consensus around them maybe later. So let's do the low-hanging fruit, I would say, first.
If I could also just
Yeah, sure.
one thing on here, and I know Mr. Schwartz has pounded this in my head, is the issue of the location mechanical units, and just, I thought, get some clarification on that, because he'll call and tell me later that he can see them, so.
I completely forgot to ask.
I know, there you are.
You're slipping.
Slippage.
I'm getting old. Yes, where are the mechanical units
Oh, I
going?
thought you had our response. We plan on putting them under the deck, which is
Okay.
a lot of space. Or there is a lower roof pocket behind the Monticello Hotel that belongs to us over the kitchen. It's a lower roof where there is currently some mechanical units, so we would utilize both those spaces. So they would not be seen from anywhere in the public.
Thank you. I kind of feel like each one of these things might be a little contentious. We've got the encroachment of the portico. We have the portico itself. We have the windows removal. We have, I've got a comment on lights, and then we've got the wash.
And colors.
Yeah, the colors, yes.
If you would just, you know, the third page is staff report, just go down through that list.
I thought I shortened your list, but maybe I took too much out.
General repairs, awning, north entrance, trellis.
It's a two-page
portico.
list.
Yeah, we can start,
Yep,
we can
I
start
think
comments
that-
there.
Okay.
Jeff's got a good point. We could use that as our.
Go ahead.
There we go, yep.
Outline.
Anybody dive right in?
I'm fine with the window removal. I think if you should not tooth in the brick, but instead allow a mortar joint to just show that outline. Yeah.
Anybody else on the removal of the windows?
Yeah, I agree that, you know, if we're not certain that those were original, I would say that the composition is so much stronger with those being removed. And it probably makes sense that they were put in about the time indoor plumbing was put into
That's-
the building. So,
Thought I had.
you know, they're old, and therefore you do want to respect the outline of them. So I agree with Carl's comment.
I agree too.
Yep.
Okay, I'm getting some nods. Good. One down, dozen to go. Next. And I don't know if general repairs, I
Yeah,
mean,
we
I think
can skip
that's,
that.
you know, that's just a note. Awning at the north entrance.
Yeah, those were,
Okay.
I just trying to memorialize some of the discussions that I've had with the applicants since October about, you know, the things that are maintenance and repair. And, you know, there's a lot that they wish they could be doing that doesn't require BAR review. But it's always good to at least capture that, you know, that discussion, and that's what I'm trying to do here, so. Unless you all had any issues with how I've treated it.
Awning at the north entrance. Comments? Anyone?
No issues?
No?
Yeah, you know, I'm not a very creative person, but if you were to try and do something that didn't look historic, I don't know how you would do that and make it look right. So, yeah. It kind of bugs me that someone's gonna look at it and might think, well, this has always been there, but I think I'm not gonna fight it.
I see your point. I mean, the encroachment thing, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's really the building officials'
Yeah.
purview.
Right.
Like, y'all are gonna have to resolve that with the building official, right?
It would have to be resolved with zoning, right? You can't, you know, you can't build beyond what they're allowed to. You know, we know that, we're aware of it. I'm just saying that you all might like the design, and it would be, like several years ago, there was a project that had neon. neon's not allowed, but you all recommended that if council would allow it, you all would be supportive of it. So it's expressing a support or for approval of the design, but not allowing its construction until.
And is it understood that if zoning says, no, you can't do that, this would come back to us?
Now, that would be, and that's where I don't, use the word significantly different. I don't know if it's a matter of inches. I mean, if it's a function of that portico, let's do it this way. The assumption is the steps are clearly in the encroachment. If the face of the columns are 1 inch over and they move it back an inch, I would feel comfortable saying, keep going.
I was thinking more if is the portico a goer, like, would they take off the whole portico is where I was more.
I mean, if it ended up.
But if it's just the steps.
Yeah,
I think we
and
can-
yeah, because this,
They
but
couldn't
it ended
take
up,
that.
they could only
That's
have a
not the
1
awning.
foot within their right of way, or within their property line. Obviously, if the design changed like that drastically, I would say we need to go back.
But Barry, you know where the property line is, right? I mean, it's been surveyed, so we're
It's in the
not,
drawings, yeah.
we're not talking about.
Yeah, where was it?
Feet.
Like the ramp, for instance, is on our property. and
Yeah.
So we're talking about the
landing-
awning out front.
Right, we're talking about the
Yes.
awning, not the
Clearly,
portico
clearly,
at
that's
this
the
Right.
point.
right way, yes,
Oh,
absolutely.
are we? I thought we were still.
No, no, we're just the
We
awning.
haven't got to the portico yet.
So there'd be
We
the,
haven't got the portico.
right, so two things.
What list was I?
Well-
Oh, whoops.
Jeff derailed us onto the portico, to the side portico.
Well, I apparently hallucinated as well, because I swear
No,
I'm not having a good night.
We're still at the north, right?
yes,
Front door awning.
the front door.
So the front door,
Oh,
so
sorry.
you've got two poles that would
Right.
be installed in the right of way. There are, the ordinance addresses this, extending things out
page
into the
190
right of
go
way.
there.
The code addresses that, but you all are just looking at that design. The result may be something,
On
shorter.
the entrance.
They may not allow the posts.
No, we're going down the list.
I know, but I'm on 190. Why is my PDF different from yours?
I don't know.
186.
Jeff, I have a question.
Yes.
Normally, what I'm used to in other cities is things that are in the right of way, like awnings and outdoor dining and all that sort of thing, are reviewed, approved or denied by the board, and then they go for legal certification
So,
with an easement.
It would be, right, and
Yeah.
forgive, maybe I'm being overly litigious, worried. I'm just saying that the zoning would review, you all don't get a building permit based on what they approve.
Exactly.
We are dealing with a circumstance in which the BAR reviewed a design that appears to encroach. Help me, it's an issue that's getting old in trying to defend. The BAR did not approve its construction, they simply approved design. So I want to be very clear
Yeah.
that the COA, and I know you all also have, some folks that, want to see what the BAR says, but the BAR approving the design, but the encroachment issue would have to be resolved. And I think a
Conditioned on
condition.
the resolution of the encroachment issue.
right.
We don't care.
We
frankly.
don't care, we know.
Yeah.
Oh, I
Yeah,
know
we
you
don't
know, and forgive me for being redundant, but it's necessary.
Yeah, so since we're still talking about the awning, hopefully. So you said it's canvas, and for lack of a better word, sort of the curtain that's vertical with the Greek wave design, but what's on the top? What's protruding out? Is that a permanent, that's also canvas?
Yes, it's all umbrella
Okay.
fabric.
And
I use
what
the word
happens when it
canvas.
rains? That thing's gonna
It
sag?
sheds water, it internally sheds the water to the edge, comes down inside.
How does
Yeah,
it do
it
that?
has
If it's
gutters,
just
you know.
only supported by poles on,
Fabric gutters and
Okay.
sometimes, well, there are two different kinds. You can just let it drain to the
Yeah.
right and left.
okay.
Or you can conduct it down the pole. And that's been done as well. It's not a tremendous volume.
Okay.
I guess stylistically, we're okay with the awning, that's what I'm hearing.
Yep.
Yes.
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 Including the design, okay, good. Shall I move on, or
North entrance.
north entrance, replacing the doors? Anybody have any objection?
No issues.
No.
Well, it says no, that's what the staff report says, but
Well,
hopefully I'm
in
trying to
this-
get you
in this
to
case, Jeff is right.
pile on.
It happens occasionally.
Every once in a while, we agree with staff, oh my gosh.
The only thing that I think I asked Barry about, and I just, is how the shutters are they shutters or are they panels?
In
How?
this particular instance, correct me if I'm wrong, but y'all are reusing doors beside the doors to sort of just mount it to the wall, right?
No, those
Or
are
do they
all
actually-
operable
hinge.
doors.
Yeah, it's all pin and,
But they'll act as
Hinge.
shutters.
right, and the locking mechanism as well, but
But they can be closed and locked. The,
Okay.
the green ones that are
So they
open
would
like
fold and
shutters.
close.
right.
Okay.
Oh,
In fact,
okay.
if you look
So they
right
are
across the
on
street,
hinges.
yeah, they have the exact same markers. Yeah,
Okay.
building
With the
right
S
across.
rings holding them back or whatever however you secure them.
Yeah, they have the rotating,
Yeah.
swirl,
I call them S
Shutter
rings.
dog.
yeah.
But whatever.
Okay. Shutter
yeah.
dog.
Sorry, I call them S rings. Thank you. But I'll concede it's a shutter dog.
Term.
So no issues with that. Okay, we're moving around to the trellis terrace deck at the rear courtyard. This is visible from the public right away. It's within our purview. Any comments on any of that, including, we've got a chimney in the designs? Anybody? Maybe we could include the mechanicals on that side too?
Well, they're, I guess, underneath the,
Yeah, right,
it'd be, yeah, inside, or under the floor, correct?
correct. Or behind that large mechanical unit on the left, there's a drop roof behind the brown
Chiller.
brick building.
Well, I think the design is elegant and wonderful, and I look forward to dining there.
My only comment would be where it abuts the side of the annex, like if we feel like we need to bring it down below the bottom edge of the architrave. But it's not one I'm, gonna fuss too much over.
Right, it does, and the reason it's that high is, if you look in the section, the windows on the inside have an arch and a brick arch over them, so we.
You have to clear
got it
that.
Absolutely as high as we could get it. It does touch the architrave.
Gotcha.
Any other comments on the south?
I think it's different enough. It's not trying to be false historicism.
No, it's not.
May I ask a question?
Of course.
About the south portico?
Yeah.
The fire escape may need to be modified to have a drop. The official deems it so, or the official may allow that ladder, but I don't know at this point. So I just want to put that out there.
This one.
The drop,
Yeah.
the drop ladder. I think it's okay the way it is, but it may not be. So it may have to be the type you see in New York that just drops down.
And I would treat that as, that is something required by the code official. There is a provision in the code that allows that, the administrative review for such things, so.
So Jeff might see that, and we might not.
If they try to wrap it in a portico, I'll tell them it has to come back.
Nothing like that. There's, I guess, what the code official have to consider is the traffic coming through there, the car traffic. Not much, but
Okay, east portico. Gentlemen?
Okay.
This is where my comment was supposed to be about the portico.
Okay.
I'm sure that made a whole lot of sense before.
Do you want to?
Just that it.
Want to repeat it?
Yes, I think if, it could be confused as historicist, but I don't think that there's a way to do it, that wouldn't be, that would work, that would look right. Other than just not building the upper story, then, I personally, I think I'd be willing to accept this. I struggled with it a bit, but yes, it looks good.
Yeah, I feel
It's
the
just
same
the
way.
historicist part.
And I think there are some subtle tweaks there. I don't think a historian would be fooled, or, it's got a stair fire escape.
That is a good point.
And it's not trying to replicate other parts, like it would be one thing if we were trying to replicate the front railing. That to me would be kind of fake, but I think this is quiet and is a nice solution.
Yeah, I think it's a strong design, and I like that it goes up that high to help screen the fire escape, and I think it's a strong way to do it. And whether you're allowed to do the stairs or not, I think the portico's design is nice.
Wow.
Okay.
Okay, we're on to color palette. Gentlemen, comments?
Can you give that photo up?
I would just offer that the greens are consistent with what would be recommended for a building of this age. If they were coming in and repainting, likely be something I'd say, yeah, that's fine. So the specific color, I'm not too concerned about. If it's, we all know as you move forward, things change. So if it's a slight shade this way or that way. But I did want to, again, make sure there were no issues that you all had. But I think the focus is primarily on that, the treatment of the brick. And then sort of any, as you asked about what's going on at the cornice, because I know that's painted now. So just so that you're crystal clear on what's painted, what's not.
Can you pull up that photograph of the front of the building with the paint mock-up? So I do have a comment. I'm hoping it'll be okay.
Do you have a pencil?
So this is what, something I brought up during discussion, but just to be clear, because in the rendering, it shows basically this, where everything is painted the lime green color. It's gonna be a thumbs up, I'm really giving a thumbs down.
Okay.
I feel pretty strongly this band here needs to be, match the trim color. I'm okay with the railing being the lime green, but this should be match the white owl or what the.
Gray owl.
Gray
The owl.
color. I'm okay with the Robin's egg blue for the ceilings personally, but just from a what's what aspect, I feel like that band is considered trend in my book. And I think it also, I don't know, I just think it'll look right. So, is that okay?
I mean, we prefer it that way, that's why we did the sample that way, but I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, I don't know if I agree with that. I would, that wouldn't be a game stopper for me. Certainly not hurting the historic integrity of this thing if it gets painted light green or not.
Go to the rendering if that maybe helps contextually.
Any other questions or comments rather on the color palette?
But this is, as Jeff said, this is, I think, where we'd have to talk about the brick.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well,
right.
sure, right now.
Yes, yes.
Okay, yeah.
If you wish
I don't
to.
have a strong opinion when I said that.
Yeah,
I'm not sure the samples, I mean, you guys are, you seem to be struggling getting the effect you want. So I guess, so do we have the, Jeff, would you be able to?
I can.
Or Molly, are you in control? The picture that shows, I guess, a close-up of the pilaster?
Are they painted?
Yep.
So is the pilaster the effect you're going for, you said? Is
Yeah,
it-
we like the
okay.
contrast there, where it's showing the red coming through, the red
Okay.
bricks coming through, and the red wash coming through.
And you feel confident in the?
I think the one on the left still looks too pink, but it changes colors every day as the bricks absorb. So, yeah, the column is more the look that we're going for.
Do you feel confident in the ability to replicate that around the building?
Yeah, John's done it before, so I don't think he would have a problem with it.
Out of curiosity, the portion below the water table, was that more testing or is that
No,
still?
that's what's there.
That's there, okay.
And that was existing.
Okay.
And that's on the, below the water table on the pilot, so that's also the red wash that was there, right?
Everything that's below the
Yeah.
table is pretty much what was there.
Yeah.
I would say the second attempt at this is much better.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I think we told y'all he was doing it in the rain and the cold the first time, so that was not a good example.
I still have reservations about the overall effect of the whitewash. That I understand that the brick is in all kinds of different levels of needing repair, but I still like the overall building being a red brick building, and I feel like the renderings kind of get at it being a red brick building. But then when I see the image of what you're going for and I see the image of the sample on the building, to me, it reads as a painted white building. And I'm not sure if that's true to what, I know the building was painted at one point, but I worry it's going to detract from the overall effect of the building being a red brick building. And I have reservations of
So this
on
photo,
that.
and this is actually the annex wall that's
Mhm.
got the red wash evidence on it.
This is actually,
No, that's the main.
Is that on the side of the,
Jeff, that's
That's
the.
the
Yeah.
building.
That's to the
oh,
right
I'm
of the
sorry, I'm
portico.
sorry. So, but, yeah, that,
Yeah.
my bad. But, yeah, there's
But
the
it's
image I had that,
Sixth Street.
that showed that.
Yeah. I mean, there's a pretty decent likelihood that originally this building was red washed and penciled.
Mhm.
And which is where they actually paint the mortar joints back after they red wash the entire facade. That would have been appropriate in the time period. And I echo Tyler's sentiment that I really don't like the direction they're going with the whitewash. I think that there's certainly a lot of repairs that need to be made. We all know that, but you can make those repairs, get good mortar matches and good brick matches, and just be honest about the repair and just say it's a repair. I think the color scheme has to reflect off of. It seems like it's more reflecting off a red brick building than the sample that's been put up is too white.
So that was why I was showing you that picture. Does that building come across white? Because we want to have a lot of dark and light in it. We want a lot of the original brick to come up.
Yeah, but I don't know if this building has been treated the way y'all are proposing to treat it, or if this is just actual historic age.
Yeah, the dilemma we have is that since the paint was stripped off the building, it's lost its skin.
Right.
And it's susceptible to moisture, so we need to come back with something, regardless of the color, but
I guess-
I'm sorry.
That's-
Just simple brick repairs, I don't know will solve the whole building
Mhm.
skin.
Right.
But I'm certainly hearing you, what you're saying.
Yeah, and I think one thing I feel like we asked last time was to try a sample of an actual red wash.
Right.
Not blending the red wash into the white wash, but just
Right.
maybe one right next to it that's just red. See?
Right.
And I understand your point, it can sometimes make the mortar joints look pink.
Yeah, I mean,
It's-
it's there.
That's
The
not-
red wash is there, but it's from a while back.
So I think, didn't the building end up getting painted yellow or something at one point?
It was-
And that's what got sandblasted off?
It was white.
Yeah, it looked to be white.
Light gray, white.
So, which I think was a regrettable mistake for them to paint it in the first place.
Is there, and I'll ask my architectural colleagues, is there a way of having a whitewash that's, I agree that what they were showing here doesn't look the way that the rendering does. would you be happier if it looked more that way?
I need to see a physical sample.
Okay,
You know,
but
instead
I
of
guess, is there a
outline.
way to make sure that you get the red brick kind of shining through the whitewash? I don't know the answer to that question.
I do kind of feel like if it were, we're seeing a little portion of it, and if it were across the, larger portion of the building, it would feel more homogeneous. Like, I don't think it would be quite as shocking as, seeing this little tiny piece right there. Not that I want them to go sample the whole building and then have us
Right.
decide on it, but,
Right.
I do think it would be more successful at a larger scale.
Okay,
I just wonder if they really thin down their whitewash.
that's what I'm asking you.
Like a very thin application. I think you'll still end up getting some dark and light splotches based on just the natural color of the bricks. And it might still also achieve, the ceiling you're looking for.
It's not a typical whitewash though, it is like, it's a lime wash.
Yeah, that's right. No, I understand.
I'm wondering if we should perhaps, if you would indulge an approval of a wash and let us continue with the search, because it's a very difficult thing.
It is.
And the opportunity for the Masons is, inhibited by the weather and other factors.
Yeah,
so.
it's in the right time of year.
Yeah.
Especially with the forecast.
Can I maybe ask a question that might help a little bit? So, to me, doing a lot of work in DC and Northern Virginia, that has the appearance of, a building that was built with, you see a lot of used bricks used. And it's, talk about trying to match things, but, where a building was knocked down and someone built a 1950s house out of it. So you have a lot of, and that is what I immediately saw. And again, having been involved with a project where we did an addition where they wanted to match it was very difficult. Then there is that painting of the brick, and then there's a brick building where the paint has peeled off. We see that around. There's or weathered, and then there's that whitewash look. So that's sort of, I guess the goal, although the result may be even with the whitewash, because of the brick is, some of the brick is more porous than others, you end up with that mottled look. But I don't know if that's sort of is the goal, a whitewash that's the same and uniform.
No.
Okay, and
Yeah,
so
I think
that.
so.
Yeah, we like
And even the
Derek.
applicant showed us the
Mhm.
structure from Yorktown, which is not at all that, so.
Yeah, this is probably just a matter of degrees of letting some of the, more of the red brick show through. And, I think, I agree, let's let them kind of keep at it.
Yeah.
But, I'd hope that we could not have to deny because of that.
My point in asking is that if it was a function of, this is a red brick building and the repairs, the result has to be a red brick building, sort of now's the time to say that.
I don't feel that way.
Yeah, I was gonna say, does anybody feel that this plan, if well executed, would violate the design guidelines, and they're willing to vote against it? I think we've got some concerns about the execution, but those might be as from a professional opinion about how to achieve what I think the applicant wants to achieve, and maybe we, so I'm trying to weave around, we don't love what we're seeing on the building, or maybe all of us don't love what we're seeing on the building, but we like the example that you've given us, and we like the sentiment, what you're trying to achieve, I think. And we know it's not gonna be all white and, so.
Carl, you would remember the Dinsmore house, they had originally intended to whitewash that, and then the result, they went, hey, we like this. So that evolution of the project, someone has to take place. But the result was they chose not to do the whitewash. They liked the way it looked.
We do have a guideline that prohibits painting of bricks, as you know, so that we're trying to weave around that and.
It's a lime wash, not paint.
Right.
Painting a
That's-
building
I
that
mean, it
once
is
was
a
painted
question.
and has been stripped and then is.
Right, and then repainted, right, it's a little murky.
That is, I mean.
So I think I got an answer,
personal-
sort of,
like,
go
on a
ahead.
personal
Yeah.
level, I'd rather it be a red brick building. But to answer your direct question.
Yeah,
but
sure.
In terms of the guidelines and trying to preserve building against moisture intrusion, like, that's a challenge.
I mean, you guys are gonna have to do the brick repairs first, right? So you could basically complete the whole project and then wash it at the end, is that an accurate statement?
Well, let me go ahead.
Well, scaffolding might be something
yeah.
like that. And normally, that's not such a big deal, but we may have to deal with traffic engineering or, or
Mhm.
sidewalk safety
Okay.
and all that sort of thing.
Understood.
We'd like to do it all at once if we could, but we're certainly open to some way of
And-
continuing to have this evolve.
So besides the brick, the rest of the color palette, I just wanted to check in. We've got our gray owl. I finally have the gray owl straight. And the two greens. Any other, getting some nods around? Tyler, maybe? James, maybe?
Okay, I'd prefer to see that one van painted the same colors of the trim, but that's just me, so.
You stand on that hill. I like that.
I'd rather see the metal painted the dark green, but.
I mean, I would
that's,
support
I think
that
I do too, actually.
I'd support that too.
I actually do support that, but.
Because the planter boxes, which are shown in the rendering, but of course aren't in the physical mock-up yet, because they're not there, are also that lime green, so it's just a lot of lime there, or mint, excuse me. And,
I think it was eucalyptus.
excuse me, eucalyptus. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
I mean, it does, it does kind of give like a patinated collar, that's copper color, which I think maybe is what's driving the design a little bit, because early paints had copper in them, and then when they would degrade, that's the color that they could turn to, so.
Mm.
It makes sense.
Yep.
But, I don't know, I mean, do we want to dictate what's what? Are we allowed to?
I'm not gonna push too hard.
I'm not gonna do paint.
Okay.
Maybe
Jeff's job.
applicant will
Maybe I'll
just take our comments.
Maybe I'll just say
and-
my
yeah.
interpretation of the word trim is trim, and that's what they're calling the gray owl. That'll be my side comment.
Should we move on to light fixtures? Let's go to the copper lanterns on the north side. Staff report has noted that they should match or be similar to those presented last month.
Right, and I think, stylistically, they're fine. And there's the suspended lantern, there's the wall lanterns, the photos there. I think, design-wise, unless you all had an issue with that, my recommendation more or less that the standard, your dimmable 3000K LED lighting and all that covers a lot of bases. Gas lighting, I don't know. I'm not sure how prevalent that is. If you have a feeling about gas lamps one way or the other.
Can't get the color wrong.
Yeah, that's right. And they're dimmable. So
So we're now discussing the sconces, just to be
Um,
specific, yeah.
Right, so,
Okay.
so there's this series of, right, so now, I think, sounds like, if you found, I'm sorry, I thought, James, you were looking at the photos. Do you want me to pull up a photo? Would that help everyone see all that?
Sure.
And then you all talk about the pilaster lights.
I would prefer you did not do the lights in the sidewalk. I have a real thing with uplights. I'm not sure that I can point to a guideline for that, but we do have a dark sky ordinance. And I think you can get enough light from coming down, as well as just the fact that they're in the sidewalk and you kind of walk over them and they're going to be shining up in your eyes. The Code building, for example, was really, really beautiful down on, across from the Omni. But when you walk through that plaza at night, it's kind of disconcerting and uncomfortable. So, yeah, I think you can do enough with just lights coming from the top. I would say a condition would be those lights that are at the top of the pilasters need to point at the pilasters and not point at the sidewalk. But I think that's probably understood and probably your design intent anyways.
Yeah, we're trying to highlight the pilasters.
Mm, good.
Didn't we approve uplights at the new courthouse?
I didn't approve them.
Okay. Just saying.
How convenient.
I was gone for 8 months, thank you very much. No, this board has approved lots of uplights, but I still stand on my soapbox.
I don't know why, for some
Okay.
reason it's, okay, then I am looking at the right picture. I
Perfect.
just had that sinking feeling of
Thank you.
something different.
Mr. Mantis. Awesome.
One of the
So we,
things
Thank
that,
you.
we
It's
had
nice.
gas all the way around, and then someone had suggested.
There you
we
go.
have them
Oh, there they
gas
are.
everywhere, there they are. So we were gonna do electric on the Sixth Street side, taking in the consideration what people said last time.
Okay.
but Having the gas on the front.
one of the things that Michael was describing to me is that where the uplights are, they have visions of maybe some flower boxes or something to help to address exactly what you're talking about.
I'm a
Furniture, not.
proponent of as many lights washing the brick as possible, so I'm okay with an up and a down, and I feel like they're against the building, so I don't think people are going to be walking with their nose against the building, but.
I think one thing we have to be careful of, Court Square is magical at night, just dimly lit. There's nothing bright at Court Square, so it's not so much the manner of the lights, but the intensity. I would hope that these would be really
Very subtle.
very subtle, which would be in keeping with what that feels like at night.
There are uplights on the oak
I know I'm gonna lose this argument. I just had to say
Just
it.
there are uplights, I believe, on the oak tree that's right in back of the, right in front of the historic portion of the courthouse, across the street from this, so there are uplights on Court Square by itself.
There's gonna be, and I'll have to, I mean, I know some of this is gonna require a site plan amendment, and at what point the lighting would kick into that, you know, about foot candles at the property line and all that, so there would be, it probably has to be some level of review by zoning for that, so, so it would be, you know, but conceptually, you all are okay, or is there something, you know, more specific about the lighting than, you know, you don't want it to be X, Y, Z, now you could say it. I'm not confident of the lighting in the sidewalk. I think kind of just the internal discussions, I'm not saying anyone said no, but that's been kind of a, you know, gee, that's not really something, you know, it's one thing to put a thing, but now you're putting, you know, something that's electrical and wires and has to be maintained, so they're got a little bit of a sense of pushback on that, not from city council, but just from the concept of it, so.
I tend to agree with you because there's several other encroachment issues that are probably more important to the applicant to win on rather than those lights. I mean, that's just my opinion, but tend to agree with Jeff on that.
Yeah, you know, conceptually, not specifically to the uplights, but like any room or any building, the general design approach is to have both dark and light, and not to have homogeneous, you know, completely illuminated object, but it creates a lot more interest in a room, in a building, and in landscape lighting, have pockets of dark and light. Not so much that you stumble around, but in the dark, but enough to highlight the features. That's what we're trying to do.
I had a question on the awning, you're lighting from underneath?
It's internal, so there's a
In the
ceiling of.
canvas?
So, I'm sorry?
I'm sorry, on the canvas itself? or-
Inside the, so there's like a pitch above for water drainage, and then there's a flat bottom piece of canvas, typically how they're built. And inside of that are lights, and it just glows through
Okay.
the canvas.
I didn't know that there was a pitch on the,
Well, you don't
You
really
don't
see
No,
it.
no, you don't see
It's
it.
slight.
Right.
Yeah, it's a slight.
Got it.
pitch,
The
yeah, just
sides are
drain.
like little parapets, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Correct.
So it'll,
It's
Got
within
it.
that.
yeah.
okay,
Like,
great. Okay, are we good with lights? Or given comments on lights at least? Would we take out the lighting on the sidewalk, maybe? Or would we want to approve that? Let it get thrown to the wolves at zoning?
Yes.
Okay, throw away. Okay, decorative features, we're moving on to, I think we've already talked about really the sconce wall lamps, but flagpoles, signage, planters, anything else?
I guess
Comments?
there's Jeff's comment about how things are attached to the masonry. Yeah, I don't know how to address that. I guess sometime, well, they'll, yeah. Just drill a hole in the masonry. I think we have put conditions on some things where you have to go through the mortar, but I don't know if that's even works.
That's
for this.
possible.
Yeah.
All right, we can always drill holes in the sconce plate,
Mhm.
to align with the mortar if the factory sconce plate holes don't align. So it's something we could do.
Chances are you're gonna be putting it on a new piece of brick anyway, so.
That's a good point.
Yeah,
Mm.
but maybe as a friendly thought, that when you are installing it, if there's a way to avoid drilling holes in the brick, that would be preferred.
I agree, yeah. It needs to be done delicately. I don't think I've thought that through.
And would there be 3 American flags from the flagpoles? That's your intention?
That's the current plan, unless one's Ukrainian and one is Virginian. I'm not sure, but that's,
I mean, I can't, we don't regulate that, but
No, my.
just curious, I can ask.
Yeah. This comes up a lot in signage, and it's where, I'll say to the sign contractor, did you ask the owner if they will let you put a hole in their building? And, and it's where, you could see it all over town, and this was something, actually Mary Joy shared a lot with me, do something about all the holes. And there is some signage you've got proposed, there's some different things, so it is that, we'll be probably looking at those from those that are signs we'll be looking at as signage, and Reed and Craig and I will say, put it in the mortar joint, not in the brick. But it's, there's the flag poles, is this, and you all have said it, you're fine, you've addressed, your request to them, so.
I mean, the flagpole is similar to a residential flagpole that just, you're mounting just the bracket.
correct.
So to some regard, we're
That's-
approving the bracket.
That's really,
Because that-
Exactly.
That
Yeah.
flagpole, you can pull in and out every night if you want to.
Right.
you know.
And again, there will be, from the building permit side of things, there, how zoning treats things that extend out into the right-of-way, that will be addressed at that time.
Railing planters, anyone? Any strong feeling against? I think we're trying to still get a consensus on approval. And signage, the Zebra Carriage Hotel words, letters I'm seeing on the north side, anybody?
It's not gonna be there. They're not allowed to do that.
Okay. And where will the signage be? Do we have any submission about that, if that had to be updated from last month? Sorry, I wasn't here.
no suggestion at this
Okay.
time.
Think that would have to come back?
Could
To
it be on
city.
the awning?
Could be on the awning,
It cannot be on the,
but we have a
no,
very
it can be
strong-
on the face of the awning, that's right.
But we have a
It's-
pretty strong pattern there, so it'd be hard to incorporate that. Might just go over the door if we have space.
And
Or a
y-
plaque.
yeah.
I don't
And
know.
thank you, Carl, because, normally, I would have said, signage still has a separate sign permit, so you're not approving any signage. And this is above the second story windowsill. So, and it is not replicating a historic sign that was there. So, that couldn't occur.
Okay.
Do we need to note
It's
that
on
in
the
our
rendering, and we all
motion in any way? That-
It wasn't really taken out of the materials that we received this month and just relying on what
I
was
mean,
submitted.
I guess this could cover the base. I will say for the record that all signage will require a separate signage permit. And so you all are not approving signage tonight.
Okay,
Great.
hey. Operable shutters.
Well, yes.
There have been shutters, staff finds the design, staff is in favor, anybody else? Good, awesome.
I only add that condition of, and I know we had talked earlier about, finding shutters that fit. And so I do think it's, important that these shutters are sized to fit those windows. I didn't address if you had to, because I think you're going to try and find some salvage material, but if they use different, do you all feel they have to use the existing hinge, the parts are there, or is this, we just want them operable with operable hardware?
There are only a few there, Jeff. I
Yeah,
think, just a couple.
So I'm okay with that, I just wanted to, okay.
Personally, I don't feel like that should be a condition.
No.
The Bermuda shutters that are on the south side, any comments on that? Anybody have some,
They're very well hidden, I think.
anybody have heartache and no
No, I
support?
mean, I appreciate the applicant hearing us last month and getting them off of that really primary facade that you can see more from the street, so.
And mechanical units? One
Sounds like they're
last-
hidden. Yep. Oh,
We have one
No window
other
boxes.
thing on the rendering that we talked about the last meeting, the object art that we have of the carriage to the right of the entrance, which is shown on the front rendering, but it's really no discussion on it.
that's
I think
a
we
sign,
submitted a
right?
photograph of the artwork. It's beautiful.
Is it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
does it come off the building or is it flat against it?
It's mounted
Yeah,
on the
it
building.
comes off.
Like a plaque
So I
almost,
guess
but
the
it's.
question, is that a sign?
If zoning determines
If
it
it
to
has
be a sign,
letters.
it will be treated as a sign. If it's a
I
projection
don't
in
either. What are we talking about?
the carriage metal,
From la-
I
From
don't-
last month?
Yes.
It wasn't,
Oh, it
it
was last
wasn't in the
month.
materials
Okay.
that we
It's in
sent.
the renderings.
It's a little,
If
Yeah,
you
so
look
little
at the,
carriage being pulled by a horse that I joke should be a zebra.
the window to the right
That you
of
said what?
Should be a
the main
zebra.
door.
Oh, like really tiny on there, okay.
Yeah, it's small, it's not big.
I thought that was like a shadow or something, or a glitch. There's some
There.
little
Oh,
thing.
that-
Oh,
oh,
I thought it was like
okay.
writing.
all right.
I
Oh.
thought the computer just
There it
glitched out.
is. There it is.
There it is.
Oh, got it. I thought it was something on the brick. Sorry.
No, it's really obtrusive, you guys can't do that.
Anybody have a problem with the historic
I don't
steel
have a
sign to be
problem with
hung?
it. No, I don't have a problem
Okay,
with
good.
Yeah, I agree, it's art. I think, I mean, it's not, but it,
It could
I
have a
guess if
sign
you-
hung from the bottom
could
of
be
it,
Yeah.
looks
interpreted
like it
as-
historically
Are you
did.
considering putting a sign below it?
Below it is a possibility. It has
There,
the
I mean,
hooks
that's
for
what
it.
the
I think it used to
loops
have
are
one,
for, yeah.
Then it gets into this.
yeah. So it-
Then it's a sign.
an ornamental, so it's the ornamental pole that would,
Bracket.
Protrude, yeah, bracket, protrusion. And then staff report has lastly,
my
said
favorite
that they
pet
would
peeve, right?
recommend removal of obsolete wires, cables, conduits from exterior walls. I would imagine you might want to do that anyway, but
Yes.
if we wanted, if anybody is making a motion, they might want to add that as a requirement. Anybody ready to,
This is the list.
So the only thing that we picked on was the wash, correct?
Right.
Correct.
Okay.
well, and then I said if anybody doesn't feel like it meets the guidelines, and I didn't get anybody agreeing,
Right, but I think that's the one thing that we have there might be
I would say you have
some
a
wording
heart,
to add.
yeah, heartache over it. You have heartburn over it.
So, a recommendation for that, and again, knowing somewhat the direction that they're hoping for from you all to go forward, I think the clarification that helped me was you did not say this must be a red brick building.
Right.
So if there is a, then the color palette, just like the courthouse, you could say, we want to know what you're going to do, bring it back. But that's not telling them they can't fix the building up. That's not telling them they can't do, that's just simply saying, when you get to what you choose to put on there, bring it back to us. And and
So we review in the field.
correct. And so that I just want to make sure that it's clear, you're not saying it has to be brick. But now, in the old days, even you would say, yeah, we're going to come out and look at it. I would generally be all right with that. That hasn't been the direction council's asked. I don't mean to be frivolous with someone else's money, but it's a $125 check to bring something back separately if it's a group of things. So I don't think that that's terrible. But as long as it's not coming back to tell them they can't do something. Hope that makes sense. I have written out I should have handed it to Carl, being the master of motion making, but where I
It's
edited
a beautiful
down
thing.
my comments to
European
sort of the pieces that would be,
So before we move off the
Yeah,
wash.
sorry.
Like, the applicant even maybe is helping us out here. 'Cause earlier, you mentioned, is there a possibility we could approve a wash, color to be determined based on approval of a site visit?
That would be the motion that I was hoping to make.
Oh.
Yeah, I think
So
that
someone
works.
wants to make a motion.
Well, yeah, but I think Jeff is about to hand me some wording.
I just shortened it up to,
We'll see how I can butcher this.
just sort of a statement of what it would be.
Thank you. So do we have a motion?
What did you? I'm confused, Jeff, but, okay.
These are the various things
very-
on that list
yeah.
that
Right.
we were looking
just
at.
sort of-
Okay, but I think,
It's
we're
something
just gonna assume that they're all
combination
good
of
unless okay.
I just stripped it.
Let me
to
give this a
what-
try.
All right.
Having considered the standards set forth within the city code, including the ADC district design guidelines, I move to find that the proposed alterations and rehabilitations at 300 Court Square satisfies the BARS criteria and are compatible with this property and other properties in the North Downtown ADC district. The BAR approves the application as submitted, but with the following modifications and conditions. We approve the wash, but we would like to, in concept, but we need to approve a physical sample of the wash. The lighting needs to meet our guidelines, which should not have a color temperature exceeding 3,000 Kelvin, and should have a color rendering index of at least 80, preferably a 90, and should be shielded to not glare at the sidewalk. Let's see, I had another one on here. The lighting. When you remove the 4 windows, you should leave a grout line outlining where the windows used to be. Shoot, guys, did I forget anything?
There's
Encroachment.
There's sometimes.
Oh, the encroachment, that's
It's
right.
all subject to.
Yes, yeah, all the encroachments are subject to the city zoning.
Is there a need to save those 4 windows, like put them in the attic?
I don't know, is there an attic?
There is.
I mean,
If you would like to,
really?
please do,
Yes, but-
but
so,
No
the-
we
requirement.
can't
Says
control
orig-
that.
re- Well, our guidelines do say retain originals.
But they're not.
We'll retain in place usually.
Retain what's removed, okay.
If you guys could, that would be fantastic, but I'm not gonna put that in the motion.
And if we could just set that panel back just a hair to distinguish between the plane over the old,
Instead
if
of
you'd
a
like to
grout-
do that,
Instead of
then-
a grout line, like just do the setback.
it would be both.
Oh, well, yeah, I guess the,
Well,
There'll be a grout line.
yeah,
There'll be a grout line, but the panel will be
we'd
set
rather
back just
not
slightly.
too thin the brick, though.
yeah.
No, not too
Because
thin, right.
Vertical seams, and I think, yeah, setting it back's actually even better.
Yeah, just a tiny,
I was thinking you wouldn't wanna do that, but
Yeah,
if you
that-
want to, then.
quarter of an inch, half an inch, something in
Yeah.
that range.
Okay.
Depending on what works.
Okay.
Okay, is Jeff, do you, or Patrick, do either of you have
Well-
one just read?
Did you say signage package has to come back?
Well, yes, and there will be a separate signage package, so we are not reviewing signage tonight.
if you just give me 30 seconds, and, because what I will do is Molly and I will listen to the tape and we'll capture it and edit out the ums and properly bracket the parenthetical comments. But I think you've said it all. I would say, again, to repeat, but the lamping, any lamping will be dimmable, color temperature
Dimmable.
not exceeding 3,000 K, color rendering index not less than 80, preferably not less than 90. mechanical units, as I understand, will be screened, and I think that, there's not a specific location, but they will be screened. They've identified where. I'm okay with that. I think you addressed the color palette, although you said for approval. Would you like that to be bring it back to you, or?
I mean, I think we need to see a physical sample on the building. So if that needs to be if they need to come back with that, then yes.
Well, what we're approving is the wash, but not the specific
wash,
color.
yes, that's
A
right.
wash.
It's similar to what we did with the court building where we went over there and approved some samples on site.
So I will say, if it is determined that it requires a separate COA, then I will make that recommendation. All right. And then the encroachment issues are relative to the east portico, to the awning, and any projections from the building out into the, and in the sidewalk. So, and the, good job.
Second.
Any further discussion? I'll call the vote. Mr. Whitney?
Aye.
Mr. Zemer?
Aye.
Mr. Burrell?
Aye.
Mr. Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Schwartz?
Yes.
And I'll vote in favor too. Congratulations.
Thank you
very much.
Unanimous approval.
That was
So much.
difficult. Thank you for
Jeff,
navigating.
Good
it helps
project.
when you do our homework for us, so thank you.
There's,
Yeah.
does that,
Happy,
you're
happy holidays.
happy?
Yeah.
Claudine's been like coming over and, banging on my door at night.
If we do, I really.
Nah,
You all want these?
you're good. Thank you very much.
That's really it. Go ahead and use it if you want.
Yes, thank you.
All right, Candace, good.
So before the meeting, we talked about the BAR, we're moving on to other business.
Correct.
Before the meeting, we talked about the BAR preferred rep to the Downtown Mall Committee being formed by the city, and then the Downtown Mall National RHP Historic Preservation Update.
So
Just the, whatever the status of that was you
Correctly.
wanted
So-
to talk
so-
about.
Very quickly, again, you know that we are proceeding with the National Register nomination, the
Awesome.
consultants. It is a cost share grant working with Department of Historic Resources where they hire the consultant, and that's allowing them to continue to work with the consultant that did the PIF. So they're now working on the National Register nomination. That will likely, the draft of that will be ready in early March, and they will ask us to review it. So, and then with the goal of if there is the recommendation for listing, that it would go to the DHR board at their summer meeting. So hopefully that will proceed. The other one is that the city is putting together that stakeholder group, a mall committee and there is online, and I think I circulated the link, and hopefully be meeting, I think, early in the new year. So if you are interested in that, I would ask that, because of my conversations with Mr. Gastinger and that the BAR select Breck to represent the BAR. And I offer that because Breck's, there is the, I think it's critical that the committee has, or the work group, whatever, it has that perspective from the landscape architect's understanding of Halpern's design. And I think Breck's very versed in that and can, it's not a decision-making body. It will be discussing some options and presenting them as options to council. But I think Breck's knowledge of the Halpern design is certainly to his favor, or would be helpful. So unless you all have any.
I agree with that. I guess my question is there an idea that there would be sort of a permanent BAR position on that committee? And if so, does it
I don't
need-
know.
Like, how does it relate to term limits on the BAR?
So, and that's where I think it's fluid. I think that there should be, one reason I like Breck being on a committee.
Breck's
No, I was going to say, he's like a great, he's such but I think as things progress, what's the age of this and life of this? I don't know. Does it evolve? But I would certainly hope that And the BAR has representation. But I know that they're also, looking for one of the positions is, or a seat, if you will, is that of a historian. I circulated that also to Pres Piedmont to see.
The applications the deadline was actually today. I just looked it up. Maybe that could be extended. That's a really weird deadline.
Yeah,
considering this time of
I
year,
think
but I all of a sudden remembered it was the 20th.
You send it out? When did you send it?
I got it from the Office of the Economic Development Office, from Chris Engel's office, just a city blast email. But they only announced it like maybe a week and a half ago, I want to say, or,
Yeah,
publicly.
Right.
You probably know about it longer.
Yeah, the responses weren't pouring in, so I think, they want to get it right. And that's so far, looking to the January 17 meeting, I know Wirtland Street, 1301, has indicated to come back. The solar panels at the Methodist Church, and not necessarily rooftop, so something with that. And then, what was the third one that I had? I just got asked. Oh, there might be, there's the Salvation Army site on Ridge Street. Actually, the buildings are, the Salvation Army is going to be hopefully changing, that whole space. So, but those buildings are contributing, believe it or not. So, I've encouraged the architect to say, hey, get that in. Get that at least off the plate. So, but and then the only other thing I was going to prepare for you, and I'll circulate what we said earlier, is just sort of having a lighting policy for the cafe spaces, the catenary lighting. And then I guess you all have heard that the trees probably were getting to a point where that work will be done, I think, in the next several weeks. They had asked me, well, does the BAR want to know what we do with the wood? And I said, well, I don't think what you do with the wood, although if they, I think they said, well, if we leave them, we top them at like 8 feet and somebody does wood sculpture on it.
I'd rather see a tree.
Yeah, no, trees.
So what we said, these were just ideas that were being thrown, and the response internally was those would be temporary art, and sort of understood that way. So I didn't want to get into it, but I think, it's not how they're going to replace the trees. It's if they do something with the stumps in the interim.
Someone's going to fall in love with them.
Yeah.
We'll never have trees again.
But can we have fountains again?
I disavow any knowledge of that situation. I don't know about the fountains. I'm sorry. And with that, if there's anything you all had for me, I suggest you adjourn, and things went 8:20. It's right about when I thought.
Are we legally required to adjourn to a time and place in order to have this
We're all
holiday party
grown-ups. I think
legally?
we have
I think we have to.
BAR has in the past done things. We live here. I think the fact that we are not discussing matters which are before the BAR, we're not discussing decisions. You are not a legislative body, but I think,
Very good.
I can foresee hours of discussions on washes.
Not.
Thank
there something
you for
else?
that.
Washing?
No,
Washing made
sorry.
you think of something?
No.
Sorry.
No, this is an important one. So we are certified local government, and every year I have to do a report of what we've done and accomplished, and one of them is that you all have done continuing ed. Now, if COVID's been helped, say, yeah, we haven't done, but all that's required is an hour of some relevant training. And Sherry has even discussed, sort of the real estate side thing, understanding those can be valid training. It doesn't have to be, how to restore a 15th century leaded glass window. But I do need from you all, and not for the newer members, but this goes from September of '21 to October, or whatever, it's a weird October, September thing, that you have taken at least 1 hour of continuing ed, and I have to put that, so I have to go find, you know.
So Preservation Virginia is still doing those online things?
Yeah, but this has to have been done in the year that's the reporting year. So if you haven't done it, I understand. If you're planning to do it, yeah, go online, do one, and we count it for next year's. But
Okay.
I'll be sending you a note out about that again. But it's, I think, what did the guy that was over on Elliewood said, I read the Secretary's Standards Guidelines. It took me 2 hours. I said, I wrote that down.
Yeah.
But it is, you know, we take, the certified local government status is, I take seriously, it gets us grants. I have reported to the city manager's office, since 2016, we've done about $250,000 of historic surveys, you know, the nominations, like for Burley, 10th and Page, and of that, we've gotten about, it's like for every, almost 50-50 in grant funding, which, because I've been able to leverage what funds we have and our status as a certified local government. So it is important to keep
Will you
that.
send us what the criteria is for the content again? I know it,
I will.
Thank
It's,
you.
and I, sorry I sprung that on you, but I just
it's good.
wanted to say it. With that, thank you for your
Okay.
patience.
I move
There's-
that we adjourn.
all in favor, stand up.
There we go.